forefront as a segment, and I will be joined by Dr. Alice Kande, who's the Director General CEO, the Kenya National Qualifications Authority. She'll be here so that we talk about verification and recognition of academic qualifications. You definitely do not want to miss any bit of that, and we'll be coming to you with that at around 8:45. Victor, good morning.
Good morning to you too. Today being Wednesday, of course, we take a look at the viewpoint, but with major focus on the finance bill that will be tabled in Parliament tomorrow. It's supposed to take effect on 1st of July. And so the government is approximating to spend 4.8 trillion shillings in the next financial year, 2026-2027. I'll be having a panel of 4 here to help us just crush the numbers and the myths and facts and all you need to know when it comes to fiscal management. Let's talk about tax, what it means. Let's talk about the deficit that the government is trying to iron out. What is the national debt? What are we borrowing? What are we consuming as a nation? And what does it really mean generally to Wanjiko? That is a discussion that I want us to have today. I'll be joined by Francis Mwangangi, and being today a Wednesday, let's talk about economy and governance, because that is where it all matters. Mwangangi is the Deputy Governor of Machakos County. CPA Mary Mukami is ISPAC and the Association of Women Accountants of Kenya member. Professor Fred Ugola is an economist as well as governance expert. He is also the founding member of AWAC, interestingly. And finally, CPA Peter Mwanja, who is the head of tax at Ronald's LLP. The 4 will be here at exactly 7, so let's talk about that. Money matters today. All right, Mike?
Good morning, Victor and team. And I want us to focus on matters construction, because the country is urbanizing at a fast rate, with areas like Kisumu, Nairobi, Mombasa expanding at a higher rate, with high-rise development, business and industrial parks, housing estates, meaning that construction still remains an important sector within the economy, given that it contributes around 6 to 7% to the GDP of the country, and also becomes a source of employment to many within the country. But even as such, a controversy cannot escape the construction sector within the country. We've seen cases of collapsed buildings, and also which raises matters of enforcement of regulation. But even as such, the central question is not about whether we are building enough. The question actually is whether we are building right. And where does that answer lie? Well, it's within the built environment professionals, and that is what will form the basis of our conversation. That is the role of built environment professionals within the construction industry. Engineer Nathaniel Matalanga is the President-elect World Council of Engineers, and Mairu Omwenga is the chairperson Town and County Planners Association of Kenya. They will be joining me later on in the program to expound and take a deep dive into the role of built environment professionals within the construction industry. My name is Mike Migu. Welcome to the program. Good morning, Giverson.
Good morning, Mike.
How are you doing?
Victor and Vivian.
Morning.
Good morning. We're all doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and tomorrow we're about to begin World Cup.
Yes.
And of course, the opening match will be between South Africa and Mexico. And a lot of people here are supporting Mexico. Africans, to be specific. I don't know why. You all guys also supporting Mexico?
Definitely Team South Africa for tomorrow's game.
Okay.
I've been following online conversations surrounding that match, and the support that some Africans are giving to Mexico is based on the xenophobia that is being experienced in South Africa. They feel like they won't support South Africa based on what is happening in that country. But then again, unajua, support for a team is personal.
Victor, who is supporting? South Africa or Mexico?
Back in Africa, mine is a bit weird. I support Congo, all right?
No, tomorrow's match. Victor, tomorrow is South Africa versus Mexico.
Okay, I think I'll go with Mexico. I'll go with Mexico tomorrow.
You see, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Many Africans
are
supporting Mexico. The reason? I don't know.
Okay. But, you know, give us one. Let's talk about something here. There is a referee who was blocked from entering the United States.
Yes.
Yeah, the Somali.
Somali
He's
referee.
actually the best to come out of Africa.
You get it? And he's been accredited by FIFA for so many years. Actually, he's been one of the best referees in Africa.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. I mean, he was returned. I mean, he was told, you go back. And so it's, we are just waiting to see how this thing is going to be. And you know, football is one of the global unifier.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to picture how the opening session will be and the matches that he was scheduled to take care of. I'm just curious.
Okay.
We just leave it at that. I'm just curious.
It also raises a lot of lessons,
Yeah.
probably for FIFA to maybe look at it keenly and plan for future World Cup matches.
Okay, guys, we wait and see. But for now, let me take you to the world of news. Now, straight away, tension is high in Mwengi town in Kitui County after the bodies of 4 men were found buried in shallow graves. Now, confirming the incident, Mwengi Central OCPD Anthony Minor urged those with missing male relatives to report to police as the process of identifying the bodies starts. Here's more.
The usual calm in this area was disrupted following the discovery of 4 bodies buried inside shallow graves. Area residents watched in disbelief as forensic teams worked for hours to exhume the bodies.
Tumepata mili 4. Ngapi? Sema kwa social media ati 20 ama ngapi? 4. Number 2, wanaume.
Tulikuwa tunaona tu inzi pale juu kidogo, lakini hatunge suspect kuna watu. So ya pili tumepata chini ya kando ya river, wanachimba kwa ukuta ya kamto, wanaingiza hapo ndani. Tumepata mtu wa pili pale mbele ya hiyo ka stream, mbele yake tumepata mtu wa 3 pale, then nyuma kidogo katikati tumepata another mtu mwingine hapo. Hao watu wote hakuna mtu ako na nguo na wamekunjwa, wamepangwa, ile mikono inapoletwa hapo karibu, miguu inakunjwa.
As the identification process kicks off, those with missing relatives have been asked to report to police.
Ukienda nyumbani, kwa sababu hatuna kesi hata moja ya mtu ameripotiwa amepotea area hii yetu. Ikiwa wewe uko na relative ameripotiwa amepotea, tafadhali sana kuja piga nini? Report, si ndio?
Area leaders have called for thorough investigations into the incident, with residents being asked to be extra vigilant and report any suspicious activities to authorities.
Tutake kujua wale watu ambao tunaishi na hawa, karakta yao. Ukiona kitu suspicious, sema. Ile mambo ya kusema, ukisema sasa unakuwa mshukiwa, hiyo ilikwisha.
Kufanywe proper investigation mpaka tujue hao watu wametoka wapi.
Now, away from that, let's take you to the corridors of justice, where former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has rejected the ruling of the High Court that upheld his impeachment. Gachagua says the 3-judge bench contradicted its own ruling by finding that his right to fair trial was violated. The DCP leader now says he will appeal the ruling, the Court of Appeal vowing to extend the battle to the Supreme Court should the appellate court not grant his wish. A day after the 3-judge bench of the High Court struck out Gachagua's petition and upheld his removal from office through impeachment, Gachagua has expressed his displeasure.
While we respect the ruling of the High Court, we totally and fundamentally disagree with the interpretation of the law and application of facts. The long-standing legal principle of natural justice and the right to a fair hearing has been trashed and ignored in broad daylight.
Gachagua laughed off the 50 million awarded by the court to compensate violation of his right to fair trial.
The 50 million Kenya shillings awarded to me is an insult to my fundamental rights and freedoms and a mockery of the Constitution. We are not interested. Money was never the issue here. Justice and constitutional supremacy was.
He wondered how the 3 judges would establish that his rights to fair trial were violated by the Senate, yet upheld his impeachment.
We strongly observe that the impeachment process was found faulty by the three-judge bench for failure to respect my right to fair hearing in the violation of Article 25, 47, and 50 of the Constitution. Once that determination was made, the entire process collapsed and was null and void.
Vowing to appeal the ruling, the displeased Gachagua told off his critics, saying he was still eligible for elective office. He, however, disclosed that he'll take a 45-day off from the public space to engage with stakeholders and the united opposition figures to determine the opposition's presidential flag bearer.
I'll be Munyoro, doing very, very serious, extensive consultations, and I'll do whatever it takes to mobilize my colleagues, to persuade them, to make it possible to have one single presidential candidate.
Now, still on that beat, a twin legal battle is confronting the Court of Appeal following the High Court ruling that upheld the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua as a deputy president. Now, besides a notice of appeal filed by Gachagua, the Senate is also challenging the 50 million shilling it has been ordered to pay Gachagua for what the judges termed as violation of his right to fair hearing. And as Ruth Wamboi now reports, legal pundits opine that the award confirms the process was fundamentally flawed.
This was a 10-hour decision by the three-judge bench of the High Court on Monday night that maintained Gachagua's impeachment.
The prayer seeking to quash the resolution of the Senate to impeach His Excellency Gachagua is hereby declined.
The Senate extinguished an entire constitutional hearing stage guaranteed to the Deputy President, thus violating the non-derogable right to a fair hearing.
Dissatisfied with the decision, Gachagua has moved to the Court of Appeal to seek redress.
I therefore, my Lord, would wish to have the transcript provided in verbatim, so that my Lord, we're able to deliberate and internalize them. We are otherwise not dissatisfied. We are otherwise dissatisfied, and we shall not watch when the Constitution is being buried.
A move supported by some legal minds who said the appellate court could overturn the High Court ruling.
Yesterday, 10-hour judgment relating to the impeachment of the Deputy President delivered by the three-judge bench was a mockery of justice and our courts as a last line of defense of fundamental rights. The impeachment petition was grounded on many reliefs, and all of them failed save one.
They took issue with the finding that Gachagua's right to a fair hearing had been violated, but falling short of annulling the process.
Punishing the Senate for denying Rigathi's right to a fair hearing, then which means that the consequence decision should be invalidated. Then why are they offering him money?
The ruling, they say, has major political implications for the former DP, if not overturned soon.
The Court of Appeal has been provided with fodder, which is in the said judgment, to make correction of the errors made by the three-judge bench in exercise of their authority.
And senators during their Tuesday afternoon sitting protested the 50 million award to Gachagua. It was slapped for violating his right to a fair hearing. The ruling has sparked varied reactions across the country, with Kenyans giving mixed reactions.
The judiciary has failed us as from yesterday, but I'm happy that the Constitution is not only in one court. The judiciary is structured such that if one level fails, we go to the next. And I'm sure finally there will be a sober judgment to this.
It was crystal clear that Gachagua impeachment yake haikufaa, na kulingana hata na mahakama vile walikuwa wakiendelesha hiyo kesi, kila mtu angeona kabisa ya kwamba aling'atuliwa kimakosa.
After the High Court thwarted his prayers for compensation and unlawful dismissal, the legal battle has now stepped its foot to the appellate court, seeking to overturn the decision which has left more Kenyans confused on the outcome. Who will blink first? Ruth Wamboi reporting from Milimani. law court.
Away from the corridors of justice, President William Ruto has said that Kenya and Norway are exploring new shipping routes aimed at boosting trade, strengthening supply chain resilience, and improving maritime connectivity between the two countries. I was speaking during engagements with the Norwegian Ship Owners Association in Oslo, Norway. President Ruto said the proposed routes will enhance links between the ports of Mombasa and Lamu and Norwegian ports as part of efforts to expand Kenya's maritime and blue economic agenda.
President William Ruto says the partnership with Norway is expected to support the expansion of Kenya's shipbuilding capacity while opening up new opportunities for investment, technology transfer and skills development in the maritime sector.
That place called Hormuz, which has become famous all of a sudden. We didn't know about Hormuz until whatever happened in Iran happened. So I think it presents us with a new opportunity to look at what can Mombasa and your ports here, what can they do together?
Ruto said the discussions also focused on cooperation in green shipping, fisheries, ocean sustainability, including plans to establish green trade corridors between Kenya and Norway.
We just developed a fish port in Mombasa, in a place called Shimoni. And we are looking for an operator who is going to work with us. I think there is also opportunity for us to leverage on Kenya's green energy resources to not only find opportunities for green fuels through our geothermal and other green energy sources.
Kenya and Norway both support international cooperation, international law, and international efforts to strengthen maritime security. It's important for us to have a dialogue of how we can protect our shared interests in face of all the challenges.
The head of state also welcomed plans by Norwegian shipping companies like Walsman Ship Management to hire 1,000 Kenyan seafarers by 2030, including 120 by the end of this year. While in Oslo, Norway, President William Ruto and First Lady Mama Rachel Ruto met with His Royal Highness Crown Prince Khan at the Royal Palace.
The Principal Secretary for Basic Education, Professor Julius Bitok, has been reassigned to the Ministry of Tourism in the same capacity in the changes announced by Head of Public Service Felix Koskei. Bitok has swapped positions with John Lekankenyi Oloitua. The changes come in the wake of closure of several schools in the country following a student protest triggered by the inferno at Utumishi Girls Secondary School that claimed 16 lives. And now to matters budget now. Kenya is moving from a phase of microeconomic stabilization to one focused on accelerating growth through investment in capital, technology, talent, and infrastructure. This is according to PricewaterhouseCoopers' latest pre-2026-2027 budget review, which highlights a shift in how Kenya finances development projects by relying on public-private partnerships to reduce reliance on borrowing.
The shift comes at a time when Kenya's public finances are facing increasing strain despite improvements in key macroeconomic indicators. Inflation has been within the government's target range, while the shilling has remained relatively stable. However, government revenue collections continue to lag behind ambitious targets, even as expenditure pressures remain high.
When they collect that money, they will have a challenge in where that money goes. Number one, the first order of business will be paying debts. Secondly, they will need to finance recurrent expenditure. Thirdly, they will need to be able to send money to the counties. And fourthly, they will need to finance development.
According to PricewaterhouseCoopers' 2026-2027 pre-budget review, the fiscal framework in Kenya is currently defined by three major challenges. That is, revenue underperformance, a widening fiscal deficit, and persistent implementation gaps in public finance reforms. He says the debt servicing obligations are consuming a substantial share of government resources, limiting the fiscal space available for development spending.
we are not able to meet some of the obligations. And our reform agenda, we've put a lot of reform agendas in the previous budgets, but again, we've not been able to meet those reform targets. So what option is left for government? How will they finance developments? How will they fund their current expenditure?
Kenya is keen on more public-private partnerships. The National Infrastructure Fund and the Sovereign Wealth Fund to mobilize capital for infrastructure and other priority sectors to reduce reliance on borrowing.
And our Kenyan startups are set to access seed funding and new business partnerships through an innovation program bringing together local and Slovak companies. The initiative is expected to strengthen links between startups, investors, and technology partners while creating opportunities for knowledge exchange and business growth.
Access to financing remains one of the biggest challenges facing startups in Kenya, with many innovative businesses struggling to scale. A new open innovation project is seeking to address this by creating partnerships between Kenyan and Slovak companies to jointly develop and commercialize innovative solutions.
Slovakia is also interested in deepening cooperation through trilateral partnerships that combine EU institutions, development financing, and private sector investment, including opportunities offered under the Global Gateway Initiative.
The program will offer businesses seed capital, technical expertise, and international networks to accelerate their growth. The initiative will also facilitate knowledge exchange and technology transfer, helping local enterprises strengthen their competitiveness.
An enterprise that establishes in Kenya is not entering one country. It is entering a continent, but notably to note, with Europe secured behind it.
The project could also fast-track expansion of Kenyan startups into regional and international markets while attracting new investment into the country's innovation ecosystem.
We'll also look at readiness of the startup, so that once this partnership kickstarts, then it's easy to make the coalition with the Slovak companies.
We're calling upon investors, advisors, mentors, both in the country and outside the country, to support the youth, because we are able to build solutions to solve real-world challenges across different sectors such as climate, agriculture, health, and energy.
A digital soil library is being set up at the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization, KALRO, to improve agricultural advisory services and support farmers make better decisions on crop production. KALRO Director General Patrick Ketiem says the research body is exploring partnerships with the private sector to scale the use of artificial intelligence to collect, analyze, and store soil data from across the country.
About 60% of the arable land in Kenya is classified as acidic, a condition that significantly reduces crop yields and contributes to poor farm productivity. This has prompted the Kenya Agricultural and Livestock Research Organization to embark on a nationwide digital soil mapping exercise aimed at reducing the misuse of synthetic fertilizers and addressing soil degradation through more targeted interventions.
Going forward, what we want to do is to be able to infuse the aspects of drones, IoT sensors. We are currently doing the digital soil mapping, so once that data comes on, we'll be able to take that data, do some eye-level analytics.
The analyzed soil samples and its information will be stored in a digital database where farmers, researchers, and policy makers can access at a click of a button.
We're moving towards creating an AI-enabled call center where all our farmers across the country can be able to call day and night, anytime, and you will be able to interact with the agentic AI and get the advisories that our farmers.
The initiative will target to collect and analyze soil samples from 7 million registered farmers with this finding expected to, among others, inform the type and quantity of subsidized fertilizer to be procured and distributed.
Now let's get sporty. The national women's soccer team, Harambee Stars, recorded an emphatic 6-0 win against Lesotho during the third playoff of the Four Nations Soccer Tournament tie at the Levi Mwanawasa Stadium, Lusaka, Zambia. Kenya lost to Zambia through penalties in the opening match on Saturday and faced Lesotho, who also went down against Zimbabwe. Against Lesotho, Starlets opened their account through Violet Nanjala, who slotted home the opener after 11 minutes before Teresa Engesha and Fasila Adhiambo doubled the advantage with a goal apiece in 14th and 27th minutes, respectively. Now, Egle Mukana scored her first goal for the Starlets with 2 minutes to the interval to hand Harambee Starlets a 4-0 win lead at the break. Kenya protected their lead in the second half as Lesotho's efforts to find a goal went begging. Starlets used the championship to gauge themselves ahead of the Africa Women's Cup of Nations scheduled from the 25th of July to the 16th of August 2026 in Morocco. Now, Kenya is pooled alongside host Morocco, Algeria and Senegal. Now, that's where we end our coverage for now. My name is Giverson Minor, but the show continues on the other side with Victor Law. But before that, a short commercial break.
I'm Peaceville Hasero, 14 years of age.
In our story today, we will meet a girl whose name is Kay. She is really looking forward to go on holiday. But something happens along the way. Well, let's get directly into the book.
I feel participants empowered in the pretty park.
And today I'm gonna show you how to make chia seed pancakes.
Hii rafiki yetu na soa hii nayo saa nyingine inakuwa kama ugonjwa. Yaani huwezi kwenda huko kama mimi.
Tabu ni yeye kweli. Tufanye hivi. Ananiambia nini? Namwambia twende. Ananiambia mpaka tufuate masanduku, tufuate masanduku, tuende na masanduku.
Sasa ufikiri naweza kwenda mahali bila masanduku? Basi tufanye hivi. Hata mimi nafurahi kama wewe napenda mimi namnoya hapana mbaya. Tufanye namna hii.
Mimi nilikoza mke, nilikoza dobi.
Sisi hatukujua hayo. Mimi nachukulia huyu masanduku ilikuwa kama ndugu yangu hasa. Kazi zake zote bibi yangu anaweza kumfanya. Kumbe ni masanduku. Si usimame pande ile. Usimame wapi? Rafiki yangu lazima ahudumiwe tu na bibi yangu kwa mambo madogo madogo kama
hakuna lazima. Sasa unaona mambo yanayotokea haya ya kutesa, unajitesa nafsi yako.
In a world where news is ever changing, staying informed is more important than ever.
Join us every week on News Check, your go-to show for the latest in current affairs, breaking news and in-depth analysis.
A warm welcome to KBC News Check.
From politics to global events, we bring you content that matter to you.
We're not just speaking about the governance and how we want to see it, but want to actually participate.
Get your facts, hear from the experts, and really understand what is happening around you.
We need to change our system first. You have to do the impossible to make sure the message is home.
Stay ahead, stay informed, stay engaged.
Will these people, everybody agree?
Just listen to me.
Let's give him a chance to clear the air.
Catch News Check every Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Only on KBC Channel 1.
Naongea, actually I'm talking. All right, good morning. Welcome back. It's now 7 on the dot. Welcome back. Being a Wednesday, let's talk about numbers. We want to take a quick whip on the numbers, what it really matters to you when it comes to your pocket. We are talking about the Finance Bill 2026-2027, and that will be tabled in Parliament tomorrow. The key highlights where we have the shortfall and where the government needs to fill the gap so that we move as a nation. There is just so much that I want us to talk about. The journey, remember what you had in 2024. What are some of the changes that we have had so far? The quantum stands at around 4.48 trillion shillings that the government intends to collect in the next financial year to keep the operations of the country running. I'll be joined in studio by my guests who are already shortly, but CPA Peter Mwanja, who is managing partner of Ronald's LLP, is already in studio. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
You're well?
Very well.
Karibu sana.
Yes.
Okay. Let me take you, as usual, on the front page of the local dailies before we get to the discussion. On the front page of the Standard says absurdity. Just one word. Absurdity. All right. The Standard says that the High Court judgment that upheld Rigathi Gachagwa's impeachment, while awarding him 50 million shillings for violation of his right to a fair hearing, has triggered a legal firestorm, pitting some of the Kenya's prominent lawyers against the judiciary. The age-old maxim that justice must not only be done but also be seen to be done has taken center stage, with legal minds firing on all cylinders, terming it absurd, dangerous, and a constitutional contradiction. So they warn that it could weaken protections from fundamental rights and embolden future abuses of power. It has also ignited debate on whether constitutional violations can be compensated with cash while the tainted outcome remains intact. That has been the discussion for the last 48 hours. We also had the discussion here yesterday, and Wakili said that they were going to go to the Court of Appeal. There were protests of Ebola yesterday in Nanyuki and Laikipia, where it is also confirmed that one person was shot dead by the police. The case in point here is that PSB talk moved at state rules out schools closure. John Otaga, that is the President William Ruto, has reshuffled principal secretaries, reassigning Professor Julius Bitok from the State Department for Basic Education to Tourism, while Tourism PS John Lekakeny Ololtua moves to the Education docket. That is what is here. According to the notice, Bitok leaves the Ministry of Education's Basic Education docket for the State Department for Tourism under the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. This comes amidst chaos that we've seen in the country, where schools, so many of them have been sent home because of arson attacks and fears of the same. Sifuna seeks to nullify ODM removal move. That is Nairobi. Senator Edwin Sifuna has asked the political parties' disputes tribunal to declare the Orange Democratic Movement resolution removing him as Sekjen unlawful. Through his lawyers, Senior Counsel Isaac Okero, Sifuna told a bench led by acting chairperson Gad Gathu that the National Executive Committee, that is NEC, was passed without giving him a chance to defend himself, rendering it invalid. That is on the Standard. Finally, on the Star, opposition and lawyers poke holes in Rigathi ouster verdict, almost the same thing as that on the front page of the Standard. If right to fair trial is infringed, you set aside the hearing. That is one of the assertions by the opposition and lawyers here. Ruto overseas trips bring in billions in investment, says spokesperson Hussein Mohammed. And finally, let's talk about what's on the front page of the Daily Nation. The same thing. Gachagua defiant. Gachagua defiant. Democracy for Citizens Party leader rejects 50 million shillings award, terming it an insult. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has vowed to fight the High Court decision that upheld his impeachment, even as he announced a
Bado uko hapa.
Toka! Toka! Ukisikia kitu nipigie simu. Sawa sawa?
Yeah, you know I got you.
We'll find them.
When, Marvin? Surely when?
Lishan? Amefanya?
Hawajakwambia bado?
Kuambiwa nini?
Kama hawajakwambia, sifai kuzungumza kitu yote.
Nini kinaendelea huku? I've been trying to call you since yesterday. And neither you nor Marvin is answering my calls. Ako wapi huyo Marvin? Paul. Lishan was kidnapped yesterday.
Aki mama, usipigie polisi, mom. Mom.
The bounty hunters were all killed?
Yes.
These bounty hunters were all at the level of Tapana. I really thought at least one of them would be able to kill Cao Yanbing first.
It really is you. Wow, you're ugly.
I'm wanted now? So you're here to capture me?
Rafiki yetu nasoa hii nayo saa nyingine inakuwa kama ugonjwa. Yaani huwezi kwenda kama mimi.
Tabu ni yeye kwa hiyo tufanye hivi. Ananiambia nini? Namwambia tuende. Ananiambia mpaka tufuate masanduku, tufuate masanduku, tuende na masanduku.
Sasa fikiri naweza kwenda mahali bila masanduku. Basi tufanye hivi. Hata mimi nafurahi kama wewe napenda mimi namnoia hapana mbaya. Tufanye namna hii.
Mimi nilikoza mke, nilikoza dobi.
Sisi hatukujua hayo. Mimi nachukulia huyu masanduku ilikuwa kama ndugu yangu hasa. Kazi zake zote bibi yangu anaweza kumfanya. Kumbe ni masanduku.
Si usimame pande ile.
Usimame wapi? Rafiki yangu lazima ahudumiwe tu na bibi yangu kwa mambo madogo madogo kama
hakuna lazima. Sasa unaona mambo yanayotokea haya ya kutesa, unajitesa nafsi yako.
Apologies for that technical hitch. Now, let's come back to the discussion. Professor, I just need to get your response. I ask you a question. What do you make of this?
Is it 50 million if you give me 50 million as a Kenyan, if it's my parents or something like that, people I respect, I'll take. But that 50 million is taxpayers' money. Why should people wrongfully remove someone from office?
Yes.
Then force taxpayers to pay them? I mean, why? When will it end? When people just make a mistake, but they don't pay for the mistake? This the citizens paying for the mistake. How many Kenyans are sleeping there hungry, and you are awarding somebody 40 million for a mistake that Kenyans didn't make? I think that there's some. I see there's impunity in this country.
Okay.
Like for example, some people say their rights were violated. It could even go to the compensation of people, victims of very many banamanos. Then the person who did it has nothing to do with it, but taxpayers' money is committed to paying them. So I see the Gachagua situation as a circus which was created, and Kenyans will pay for it. But I also believe that Gachagua could not get his ruling right now, Because if he was to get the ruling he was expecting, it will cause a constitutional crisis. I predict, at the end of the day, after the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court hearing, the court will rule that Gachagua was unrightfully taken out of office. It will be too little too late. You remember the ruling on the majority in Parliament? When they did that, actually UD or Kenya Kwanza don't have the majority, it was too little too late. So that will happen. BBI was the same thing. They do the right thing, but they do it when it is too late.
Yeah. Okay. I had to start with that. For all the obvious reasons. Okay, let's come back to this. So tomorrow is a very important day, gentlemen. The Parliament will get to understand what is on the table for the country, what we are going to spend in the next financial year. When you look at the total budget, it stands at around 4.8 trillion shillings, and that is what the government is proposing. Peter, when you look at this figure, what do you make of it? Achievable or an overstretch?
Well, thank you, Victor. First of all, it's a humongous budget. 4.8 trillion. It's not a small figure by all feet. Of course, a significant increase from the current year's budget. But when you look at it, when you look at the numbers and the projected revenues, you get the feeling that the government is becoming a bit ambitious when it comes to the budget. Most clearly is on the projected revenues. You know, we are seeing an economy almost shrinking in a way because the GDP percentage being projected at 5%. Yet the revenue estimate is quite on the higher side. So from where we stand, we believe the government is not being realistic, and especially in light of what is also going on in the rest of the world. We have the Middle East crisis, which has really disrupted our supply chain. So companies are not able to get their inputs and raw materials on time. The cost of fuel has gone sky high. And all these are factors that will affect the ability of businesses to operate, to make profits. And these are the profits which are then taxed for the government to earn revenue. So for you to have this kind of a budget, whilst not putting into consideration the impact of all these external shocks, we find it a bit overambitious.
Okay. Prof, what do you make of that?
Yeah, first of all, if you want to make it, you see the budget projection being put, as he says, 4.8 trillion. From last year's budget,
which is 4.3.
4.3 trillion. You can see within 1 year, that budget has really grown by something over 40%. So if last year, in fact, the best way to look at it, look at this administration holistically. They took over the country when the budget was 3.1 trillion. Now, they have reached, within 3 years, they are now doing 4.8 trillion. That's about 60%, 61% increase in budget. But I want to introduce a new language. Don't call this thing a budget, call it expenditure, because that's what it is. They're going to spend 4.8 trillion. Why is it called a budget? Is that within that same proposal, there is a way to raise this money. But the 4.8 trillion is not a budget. That is expenditure. Now, how can expenditure be growing at 61% while your revenue is growing at 5%? Run any business, whether it is just a kiosk, whether it's a school, whether it's a hospital, whether it is, let's say, even trading, and your revenue is growing at 5%, yet your expenditure is growing at 61%. You are literally not in business. And then if you look at I'm seeing a figure here of budget deficit, 1.1 trillion. And then they are projecting to collect 3.6 trillion. Now look again, last year, they projected to collect around 2.9 trillion, thereabout, and they did not collect. There was a deficit of 815 billion deficit in the collection. The projection from KRA, they went short by 815 billion, meaning with the projection here, again, add that budget deficit, add another 850 billion, you realize that actually the actual budget deficit, if they don't lie to us, is 2 trillion. Now, 2 trillion is not a figure that you have seen. Have you seen 2 trillion in your pocket, or have you met it walking on the street? It's not an easy thing to do. So these projections will happen. Then I can tell you now, Victor, I'm an economist. I've seen how these guys do budget. I've seen how their current administration does their budget. Mid down the line, they'll come with another supplementary budget. And that supplementary budget will increase again. This figure will, by the time we finish the year, this figure will be doing around 5.2 trillion. And that's what happens. So what I'm trying to say here to Mwananchi, I was a young boy when Moi was a president. There's a way we used to read a budget. Actually, Moi never read a budget. Moi used to read a price list. He used to say that today, unga will be 80 bob. Bread will be 25 shillings. So what we don't know is, how does these numbers we are reading here impact the common man or woman when you go to do shopping? Because can you tell me how much bread will be after this budget is right? But Moi used to read for us a price list, which was very important. That's why you can see during that time, many people used to buy newspapers because you'll see a price list. You'll go and look at, listen to the radio, TV to see a price list. We do know how to translate how the cost of living will look here. We can't tell how much employment will be. We cannot tell how many industries will be built after this one. We are just being told expenditure. And I want to say something for me. For the fiscal health, let us live within our means. We are beginning already by living beyond our means. Kenya has hit a debt ceiling. In fact, nobody wants to lend money to Kenya now. And yet we are projecting that we can actually borrow almost 2 trillion. I think that the best thing to do is let us even put the MP salaries on GDP. Because some people are living as if the GDP does not have impact on them. Whether the GDP is low or not, they earn a lot of money. Let us cap each and everything on productivity of the country. Let us not just say we must spend this money because we must spend it and because we can approve it.
Interesting breakdown there. But Peter, you can just give us a quick journey where we are today. We are in the next financial year. And when you look at the journey on how Kenya has grown, you'll talk about the GDP, our expenditure, the deficit, we have got the external borrowing, the domestic borrowings. All these things put together affect the final outcome of what the country needs to spend. Take us through the journey, having in mind of what happened in 2024.
Yeah, interesting perspective there, Victor. Of course, we all know the situation that happened in 2024. I think it was one of the most chaotic periods for our country, and of course the Finance Bill 2024 was one of the most highly contested finance bills we've ever seen. And I think there was a good reason for that. And the reason is that the Mwananchi, or the common Mwananchi that we make or allude to, Wanjiku, has gotten to a point whereby they feel they have any additional wiggle room when it comes to the ability to pay taxes. So they've gone to a point where they have no more capacity. They cannot absorb any additional taxes. And that is the reality of the situation in the economy right now. Remember, the statistics show us that the spending power by this common Mwananchi has shrunk about 12% in the last 5 years. So the income, the taxes are rising, the cost of living is rising, but then their real income has been reducing over the last 5 years, which sort of presents a very huge challenge to the common Mwananchi. And that's why we are seeing from this current finance bill, the government is, yes, not introducing so much new taxes, but then when you look at some of the measures that they are proposing, they seem to be very keen on tightening the compliance, or enforcing. Let me use the word enforcing compliance. When you look at some of the tax procedure changes, you find that the issue of teams and e-teams has really become a pain to common Mwananchi, because what they're saying, Victor, is if you spend even 100 shillings in a kiosk, that kiosk should give you a Teams compliant invoice. So then the government has almost real-time access and real-time visibility of all transactions that are taking place in the economy. So we are seeing a government so keen and intent on really enforcing compliance. And remember, enforcing compliance is not the ideal way of tax administration. We should be having a situation where there's voluntary, the taxpayers are being encouraged to voluntarily comply with their taxes. And I think globally, as we look at the global best standard, the best standards globally, where there's sort of voluntary compliance, then the cost of compliance also reduces on the side of the government. So really, Victor, when it comes to the mwananchi, I think everyone is in a bad place when it comes to taxes. Looking at the GDP numbers, as Prof here said, we should have a situation whereby we tie some of these statistics or even salaries to our members of parliament to the performance of the economy. And I think also that is the same thing that we need to do when it comes to taxes. We cannot be ignorant and say, we want to raise XYZ extra billions or trillions in terms of revenue, yet the economy is not expanding in the same way.
All right, Prof.
Yes.
That's a very good breakdown. But then, has the government become a little bit creative on how they're fixing their things from what happened in 2024?
Yeah, of course, you see, first of all, there's a lot of distraction, distracting people from what people should be talking about. Because the typical Mwananchi do not want to hear all these suckers you see in the newspapers and the media. What is important to them is, can they put bread on the table for their kids? Can they take their kids to school? Can they be able to afford a hospital? And that's why, Victor, I came up with the 5 tests on how to check whether this budget is working or not without being biased. The first test is, does it lower the cost of production? Because there are people who produce, who can create jobs for people. Does this budget or even the finance bill lower the cost of production?
Yes.
It doesn't. Second, does it create jobs and livelihoods for people? After this, I ask you, how many jobs are being created? You will hear CS reading, just like the CS before read, that we have frozen employment. And they'll read this one without worrying. You've frozen employment, yet your budget is growing. Can you tell how someone moves from a 4.2 trillion budget to a 4.8 trillion budget and employs nobody? It's like a husband who says that his salary has increased by maybe 90%, yet nothing is happening at home. No one can have better haircut. Nobody can go to a better school. Nobody can be able to have better healthcare. I think it's a joke. Then the third one is, does it encourage value addition?
Yes.
Because we are exporting a lot of raw materials out of this country, and that's not fair. If our taxes go there, eventually you'll see this impact on the economy directly. Does it attract productive investment? For example, how much foreign direct investment is coming to Kenya after this budget? Remember that some people, as we read this budget, Tanzania is reading a budget.
Yes.
Uganda is reading a budget. So if you're an investor sitting in London, sitting in New York, we'll be looking at saying, from these budgets of East African countries, where should I go and put my money? They are looking at, because the government speaks through the budget. The government speaks through the budget, so investors are looking at this budget saying, where do I go now after this budget? And lastly, does this strengthen trust, transparency, and fair taxation? And that's, for me, the most important. That's what Peter is talking about. Does it support transparent, fair, and just taxation? Because you are strengthening compliance, but you are not strengthening fiscal discipline. Money is going to be leaking in the economy. Then you're telling a Kenyan to pay. So as you strengthen compliance on collecting, why don't you strengthen compliance on spending? Because actually, Kenyan problem is not a revenue problem. Kenyan problem is not a more money problem. Our problem is expenditure problem. When expenditures go beyond our means and people don't want to look for a way to ring-fence these expenditures, then we have trouble. And I can say that people who have entrusted with running this country, they make themselves wealthy, they keep Kenyans poor, and that's why expenditure goes how to take care of them. And I think the shift should be that a leader should eat last. citizens should eat first. You can't be a father that you go home and after you have eaten, until you are snoring in a chair, then ask, have kids eaten? You can't do that.
Yeah. That's a different, crazy analogy. Okay. Mary, good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
You found the men have already warmed the room for you.
Thank you. Thank
we are
you.
not snoring, we are working.
That's great. I'm sorry for coming late,
No, it's okay.
but I'm here.
It's all right. Mary Mukami is a SPAC member and also AWAC member. AWAC is the Association of Women Accountants of Kenya. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
So we are just getting into it. 4.48 trillion shillings. Last year we had 4.2, 4.3 thereabout. There's a very big variation there. But Wanjiku still feels that something is working. According to the gentleman, there is no dollar in the pocket, but whatever the government intends to spend has gone up.
Yeah.
Do you feel the same?
Yes, where I am, and being one of the person who has to bring the food in the table.
Yes.
It's a bit stressing. So to me, what I can say, we are not supposed to plan what we do not have. And then at the same time, we need to ensure that whatever we collect, there is accountability of everything we are doing to mwananchi, so that if, as we do the project and as we aspire to go to Singapore, we are, even as we are feeling that joy in our pocket. So where I am, I'm feeling the pressure like an ordinary mwananchi.
Yeah.
And our prayer is there will be discipline in whatever we are doing in terms of budgeting. Accountability is supposed to be there, and also transparency in whatever we are doing, especially on revenue collection and other resources we are getting in our country. Yes.
Okay, great. I think that's point. Let's take a break. When they come back, we'll talk about budget, no food, putting food on the table, but I want to give you tea. For us, we have enough budget.
Yeah, sure.
No, we want to give you tea. Stay with us. Much more after this.
The bounty hunters were all killed?
Yes.
These bounty hunters were all at the level of Tapana. I really thought at least one of them would be able to kill Cao Yanbing first.
It really is you. Wow, you're ugly.
I'm wanted now? So you're here to capture me?
Hebu fikiria environment kama hii hapa Western Kenya, eti mtu atatoka hapa aende Nairobi kusoma university to conquer the world. Mimi Andrew nitahakikisha hiyo ndoto imezimwa. Tazama hayo yote kwa Gundu KBC Tuesday to Thursday 7:30 p.m. Leo sio kesho.
The bottom-up economic transformation agenda is not just a plan on paper.
Manifesto tulioandika na tukauzia Wakenya na wakatupigia kura, sio gazeti ya kufunga nyama.
It is happening on the ground across Kenya.
Enda subabogi Moriega Jodhurwa untie Mugani Pamjambo.
In agriculture,
Turkana wameamkia mambo ya ukulima sasa.
On our roads,
Lami black anaingia hapa anagausha hapa, wacha bana.
In health,
all our patients are insure 100%.
In housing,
kutoka nyumba za mabati
kuleta nyumba kama hii ya ghorofa ni kitu mzuri sana.
In our markets.
Umetukumbuka sisi mama mboga. Shida zetu umezitatua.
And so much more.
It's a good thing the government inakuja mashinani na this is all what we have been requesting.
This is transformation. This is impact. This is delivering the plan. Every Friday on KBC Channel 1.
All right, welcome back. So today we are talking money matters and how we are going to be surviving as a country for the next 1 year. So now, Peter, let me ask you a question. We are looking at a deficit of, looking at the figures, the fiscal deficit is around 1.14. That's give a round figure of 1.2.
Yes.
With domestic borrowing standing at 995, that's almost a trillion.
Almost a trillion.
A trillion.
Yes.
And then external borrowing is 148 trillion.
Billion.
Billion. Yeah. What does this really show you?
Well, it's a significant deficit, obviously.
Yes.
But for me, the most or the major concern is that intended borrowing domestically.
Because domestic borrowing?
Domestic borrowing.
Okay.
Because you're talking about almost a trillion. And Victor, normally what happens is that if the government is in the market borrowing from banks, the same banks me and you borrow from, the same banks, SMEs and other businesses borrow from, we'll have a case of what we call the clouding out effect, meaning banks would favor sort of borrowing or rather lending to the government as compared to the businesses. And the ripple effect of that is that we'll find ourselves in a situation whereby the local enterprises, the businesses are not able to access capital or loans due to the fact that the government has already taken a very significant portion of the available resources as borrowing. And as a consequence, we'll have the capacity of the economy growing becomes hugely affected, because if we are saying that enterprises who ordinarily are risky to lend to, and there's always this analogy that the government is a risk-free borrower, the banks will always favor lending to the government.
Yes.
So what happens then is that us as enterprises, as individuals, are not able to access capital. And what that means is we are not able to finance our businesses. And we are not able to finance our businesses, it all means that our output as a country would be negatively affected. So for me, the intended local borrowing is where we have a problem. And of course, it's always the ideal situation whereby we don't have a deficit. But I don't think the last couple of years, probably more than 10 years, we've not seen a situation whereby we have a balanced budget, whereby we're able to finance our budget entirely from the resources that we have. We're always having this hole that we have to fill. And obviously, as we talk about our debt crisis, the fact that we continue to borrow, then it makes the situation even worse. So we'll get to a situation whereby there will be no wiggle room, even for future administrations, because we have literally hit the debt ceiling. But the fact that we're borrowing more locally than externally, I think that presents a very serious cash flow crunch to the economy due to the fact that local enterprises will not be able to borrow.
Mary, when you look at this, what does it really give to the financial institutions of the country?
So when we do a lot of borrowing internally, the financial institution, most of the financial institutions are going to, the way he has said, to rely on the government, because the risk of default, it's very little. So as much as the financial institutions are going to grow like banks, they are going to report high profit. Still, remember, the bank also, they get money from the deposit from the ordinary Kenyans. So when the economy shrink such that the SME are not able to give as much as possible in the economy, still they will feel the ripple effect in the final profit. But the economy also, it's going to be affected in a negative way because now the growth is going to be small. In fact, most of the economy are doing very well because of SMEs.
Yeah.
And when government tends to borrow more domestically, it means now even these SME, they won't get money to
There's
finance.
a priority.
There's a priority.
Right.
So the best thing we can do as a country, as leaders, we need to look at, be disciplined on how we are spending. We should be also disciplined on the expenditure, how we are using the money, so that at least we can give something to the SME and that they can grow the economy and make the money move in the circulation. Yes, that's what I can take, yes.
Deputy Governor, Machakos County, Mheshimiwa Francis Mwangangi, thank you so much for joining us as well. I'm looking at a figure here. In the 2026-2027, the Council of Governors is pushing for an allocation of 534.96 billion shillings for the county government. That is the equitable share at 420 billion shillings. That's a very big increment. We are talking about economy and governance. You don't listen to Wajiko?
No. First, thank you for the invite. Secondly, I thank my panelists. And I don't know what is happening around our city. It's not the same city I've known for all these years. There seem to be a lot of jams everywhere. Coming to the question, I think I'm on record. And I'm not saying this simply because I'm in devolution space, but I'm one of the advocates of the faster transformation of this country. That means a lot of decentralization, leaving very little amount at the central level. That is the best way to go. Meaning, if today we have at least, if I wish the drafters of the Constitution framed it in a way that we started at 40-60% with a view to, in another 10 years, coming to 60-70 vis-a-vis 30. That way, we can grow the economy and ensure we have enough for everybody. So what I'm saying, the over 500 billion you are quoting there is too little compared to what we are proposing as our country's budget. Now, whenever I advocate for devolution, very many people will come up with these stories that, you know, some governors are doing this or that. You know, that is not here nor there. We have institutions like DCI, like ESCC, like County General, Parliament, regional assemblies, who can do a perfect job in terms of oversighting, in terms of investigating. And that is not even a reason enough to deny, particularly the person at the village level, services like basic services like ECD, like agriculture, like a dispensary, like even a village road. I think we need to look at the fastest way to develop this and transform this country. Secondly, allow me to comment on, before I go to that other point, please allow me to say this. We have regions that are historically perceived to be marginalized. Yes. And it is not a perception, it is a reality. We have, even in this Nairobi, they are not equally developed. And then if we have a strong functioning devolution with the resources, I can tell you such gaps can faster be bridged. Allow me to weigh in on something that my colleagues have commented on, the issue of government, particularly national governments borrowing. We always talk of austerity measures, and I saw Professor. He was very much, and he is always articulating for good governance. And thanks for that, Professor Ongola. JC's part of their revolution was how large some of us in public space are living beyond our means. We are killing our SMEs. I wish we could have a law to ensure national government or county governments do not go borrowing from the private sector.
Yes.
Allow these financial institutions to interact with our SMEs, our existing businesses in private sector, and ensure we have resources that can be borrowed that are not that expensive, are affordable, so that
you mean they should stop all
almost immediately, because our main problem is our guys at the top are the same people who are looting public covers, channeling them to their financial institutions and lending it to the government. It's a fact. We are the same people, and that is where Africans, we are shooting ourselves to the foot because we are looking at a faster way to be the billionaires of this world instantly. That is where the problem is.
Okay. Prof.
Yes?
What do you make of that? Because talking about the PPPs, I mean, when you look at even how government operates, right now the government is giving a different approach, that PPPs should be part and parcel of the economy and having that major focus. But with domestic borrowing hitting that figure, then it means that it's going to be something quite different again in the next financial year.
Yeah, he's right, because that's the point when Peter was talking. I wanted to say exactly what my brother, Deputy Governor, said, that who owns banks in Kenya? They are owned by politicians. So when they are owned by politicians, what they do is that they are looking for business for their businesses. So that's why you find thereby somebody signing a deal on behalf of government with the left hand, and on the right hand, that deal is going to him, is the one signing with the right hand. So that thing whereby what the right hand gives, the left doesn't know, that was only in the Bible. But in Kenya, the right hand knows what the left is doing, and that's what they're doing. So, for example, the current president owns a bank, isn't it? Deals are flowing through that bank. So who is signing on that side? It is him signing on that side. And he's signing on this side, government, every item in their life, plus the car they are driving, plus the food they are eating, while the Kenyans are sleeping hungry, and there's no one discussing that budget. And that's why, as an economist, when I was working with the pigs, that is Portugal, Italy, Greece, and Spain, we came with the strategy to do household expenditure projections, and you do budget from the household. Does the president know how many households in Kenya? I know there are 12,500,000 households, isn't it? What is the education expenditure per year? It's an average of something like 48,000 per year on the lower class. On the upper class, they spend around 250,000 per year on education. We have around 4 children per household average. You understand? How much they spend on food, on healthcare? If we start from there, we can budget better. And in fact, you can even know what the big government is trying to say. I've always been against what's called national budgeting. I always look for regional budget. First of all, do you know how much Machakos County needs to actually, just as a county, to operate? Do you know how Taita Taveta, Tana River needs? Do you know how Kiambu needs? How much Siaya needs? When we start from there, is when now we make these things important. But they talk about national budget and tell you they are focusing on national priorities, but actually they are political priorities, not national priorities. Like if you look at how they're putting money here, they are more political. Who is the heaviest spender? Who is going to take more money? So as far as I'm concerned, domestic borrowing brings high interest rate. That's clear. Because government has low risk, so government will borrow at a lower risk. Everywhere else will have a high risk. The interest rate in Kenya is 24%. We are competing with China, which is 2.9%. How can you beat them? Secondly, they slow economic growth because money does not go where jobs are created. Money goes on trade, on the commercial deals. Debt servicing cost will go up normally, and then of course inflation and reduce investor confidence. Because if investors know that you are borrowing from inside your own country, they are not having incentive to come from abroad to bring money. But if you can bring external borrowing happen, Kibaki with the stroke of the pen, I was Kibaki's economic advisor. Kibaki simply said, the government will not borrow inside. I saw people who used to work in the bank left their jobs to go and set up businesses because that gave them lower interest rate. Banks were pitching tents in hospitals. They are still pitching tents in schools. They're pitching tents on the street, looking for interest, looking for debt, also looking for people who can borrow, people to open accounts. Now banks sit pretty and borrow to the government, and they eat the money, and then they laugh at us.
Peter, let's just bring it back to Wanjiku's side. What does Wanjiku really need to understand about what is going to happen from, tomorrow and, of course, taking effect on 1st of July?
Yeah, so thank you, Victor. I think for Wanjiku it's quite simple.
Right.
And I would say the future looks a bit bleak for Wanjiku, in the sense that we are seeing a government that has a very huge appetite for taxes, yet ignoring the day-to-day realities of Wanjiku. We are seeing a situation whereby the government has very ambitious plans to collect taxes, yet not putting into consideration the other sort of effects in the economy. What happens when you raise taxes and reduce the spending power of Wanjiku? And what else then happens to the economy? Because everything has a ripple effect. If, for instance, today, Victor, your income or your spending power is reduced, it means the places you shop, the companies that are likely to, that produce the goods that you consume, will also have an effect. So we are seeing really things looking very dim for Wanjiku from a spending perspective, because they will have lower disposable income. And of course, there was a proposal initially before the finance bill was published, that will have the pay-as-you-earn bans, for instance, being revised so that then we can shield Wanjiku a little bit. And I think the proposal was that for incomes up to about 30,000 be exempted from taxes. And this would have been a very, very sort of proactive and forward-looking proposal. But then again, when the bill was out, some of these proposals were missed out. And we're wondering, is it that the government is ignorant of Wanjiku, or is the government out of touch with the reality of the common Mwananchi? That is the question that we're asking.
Mary, our work is quite central when it comes to Wanjiku, pun intended. Does Wanjiku really have to understand what is happening? And if so, what does it really matter to Wanjiku?
Very painful, very painful. Wanjiku has to understand, and already they understand what is happening. So, like the way Peter said, we have a government which do not know what is happening to the ordinary Mwananchi Wanjiku. And that's why you can see, you come up with a policy, and implementation of that policy becomes a problem.
Right.
So this government, or the regime which we have, it's good to be to speak the truth. We need to listen to what Wanjiku is saying, because we are so much squeezed. Even if that pay-as-you-earn band is increased, still there will be a problem, and there will be a ripple effect in our pockets, because now there is other additional cost which has been brought in. Already you don't have even money to do investment. you don't have money to start your business. When it comes to VAT, everything is vatable. So at the end of it, disposable income becomes very little, and even the cost of living increases, it's going to increase, and mwananchi Wanjiku becomes poorer and poorer as days are going.
Yeah.
So what are we supposed to do as a wananchi, as a Kenyan, together with the government? So the government has to listen to what is happening on the ground. Thank you. We have our governor here. So please let's listen to what is happening, what is how Wanjiku is seeing, so that at least we can make the life bearable to Kenyans. It's outside, it's very painful. I have an example. For me, I do SME, taxation on SMEs. I help them in bookkeeping. I help them in managing tax planning. Where we are, as a mwananchi, even the business is not manageable in Kenya. So
it's that serious?
Yes, that's serious. I deal with Mama Mboga, I deal with Bonda Bonda, I deal with the shopkeeper. Most of them, they are closing their business. That's how things are. So let's listen and let's act.
Okay. An interesting bit. I think that we don't need to sweep that under the carpet and assume that just a statement. A quick idea or picture what it's like all about, because it's the same Wanjiku who is going to be taxed to bridge this deficit.
Yes.
And to get the 4.8 trillion shillings. What is the picture down there?
To be honest, the picture down there, it's horrible, it's bad, it's tough. Because whatever you are doing or the business you had, for example, like Mama Mboga, there is a research I did 2016. 2016, by that time, Mama Mboga could make a profit per day of 10,000. Yes, from selling, cutting the boga, from selling tomatoes, danias, and all those. You could get 10,000 per day. But nowadays, as we are speaking, even 5,000 is a problem. So the lady who I was helping her to manage that business. As we are talking now, she closed the business because she couldn't manage the cost. She couldn't manage to manage the business and at the same time pay the cost for the school. So I don't know what happened. So that is how things are. Things are bad. When it comes to shopkeepers, the shopkeepers, they get that 50 cent, 1 shillings, and when they pull them together, they becomes a good amount of money which can run their business. As we are speaking now, even some of those shopkeepers, they are closing their business because the cost is becoming unmanageable. And now that's why we want to say the government has to listen, the government has to act. From the top, you can give us the figure that the economy is doing very well, 5.3% growth, but realistically, things are very tough. For me, I had a client I had like 20 clients. As we speak now, all those clients have lost their business. I've left with 10 clients. So as days are going, people are becoming poor and poorer and poorer. So there's something which is very, very tough.
Victor, just let me just make...
But did you just hear that?
No. Let me just... this is what we have just said. We are operating in a country where some people are sitting in a 5-star restaurant and they are eating heavily, then passing the bill to someone who is eating in the kiosk. So what do I mean by that? The expenditure for this government has grown from 4.2 trillion to now 4.8 trillion, but the economy has not grown at that level. I take you to 2022, when it was 3.1 trillion, now we are doing 4.8 trillion. And the economy has grown only by an average of 5%. What does that mean? Is that they are growing how much money they are spending, but they are not putting money where these people like Wanjikus, the morals, they can actually be able to fetch from the economy. By the way, I don't like calling people Mama Mboga, because my mother has not given birth to Mboga. I just call people, let's say you are doing a market, open market sales, because, no, I mean, I'm sorry, you know, there's some language which are not very good to use, by the way, let's be honest.
Okay.
My mother gave birth to Fred, never gave birth to any Mboga. Is it kunde leaves, or it is vegetable, or it is it's cabbage? What I'm trying to say here in short, let me give you a picture of a typical Kenyan. Before, let's say you used to have 1,000 shillings. For 1,000 shillings, 500 you took to rent. 200, you do those other payments you make, that's 700. 100 was for your breakfast. 100 was for your lunch. 100 was for your dinner. That's make 1,000, isn't it? Now, the cost of living has gone up, isn't it? But this 1,000 is still your income. What's happening? You miss one meal, isn't it? When you miss breakfast, there's somebody who was selling that breakfast, isn't it? They miss revenue. When you eat one meal a day, the person who was having money from you for lunch and breakfast misses revenue. She told you she had 20 clans. I'm sure you could afford a few things in life. Now you have 10 clans. 10 clans have left you, they are down under. So we are trying to say, without listening to household expenditure, how the typical Mwananchi feels the heat of the economy. And for you, I just think I'm saying 17 billion for State House, isn't it?
Okay.
And then this one for, I don't know, this one. That is the problem. So I'm saying budgeting should be done bottom up if we are running a bottom-up economy.
Thank you.
It should not be done top-down.
Thank you.
Then you're telling us you're doing bottom-up economy.
Did you hear what she said? When you look at the counties, and you are also going to, you're part and parcel of the economic growth. And when you hear us speak, that Prof doesn't want the word Mama Mboga, but that is the word we are used to, okay?
Sorry.
What does it really show you? If you can just do that in 1 minute, if you can.
I'm on record on this show saying the policies of the current administration have brought massive poverty to this country. I'm again on record saying most of the businesses, multinationals, have moved. An example is Samsung. They used to have regional headquarters here in Kenya. Now they have moved to South Africa. Kisa na maana, high taxation regime that is killing businesses, bringing a lot of poverty to our people, because many people, when these businesses relocate, they lose their jobs. Once they lose their jobs, they have got any economic gain. It is as simple as that. We are feeling the heat because we are with the people right at the grassroots level. I think we might have maybe somebody at the higher level, like either one of these panelists as a president of this country, who instantly will issue 2 decrees. One, if you are at from a certain level going up, if you are a senior manager in a public sector going up, enjoy public services. If it is healthcare, go to a public health. There is no maneno ingine. If it is education, take your kids to your local public school. So that public sector does not come somewhere to go and enrich yourself. There is a lot of suffering at the grassroots level.
I'm told that there's a function that we need to take, a live function somewhere after 8. So is there hope for Wajiko? 10 seconds.
Yeah, I believe there is. As I said, the future is not looking very bright at the moment. But I think we need to keep the pressure on the government to ensure that the policy being formulated is, considerate and realistic of the situation on the ground, and putting these common Mwananchi at the very center.
Prof, did you say that one person should be there at the top as the president? That is a prayer to you directly.
Yeah, because you see, I'm running for president, and I know the Kenyan problem is economic, and we have the silver bullet, which is creating 100,000 jobs per county, grow county by county. For me, that's the silver bullet to solve the debt issue, to solve unemployment issue, to solve the interest issue, to solve inflation issue, and to solve the currency exchange to have power and become globally competitive. I know the problem. I know the problem. I know the solution. If you appoint me, Victor, I'll not disappoint you.
I only have one vote. I know where I should go. Mary, Tumalizie, is there hope? You said that you're the one who put food on the table.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, there is hope. Always there is hope. In this life there is hope. But the hope will come if we change. We change from the leadership. We ourselves, we are the one who brought this leadership into the governance. So we need to look for right people who can account for what we are collecting as a country. And when we do this, we are going to align everything as according to how things are happening on the ground. For example, we can take an example like Kibaki regime.
Yes.
The country was doing very well, but people had lost hope. Parents had lost hope. But the moment he took over the governance, things changed. Kenya were ranked as people who are happy.
Yeah.
So still there is hope. If we, Kenya, we can change, and how we can change this, it's bringing the right people in the governance.
Thank you.
Yes.
I promise to call you back.
Victor. I know, less than 5 seconds. Please, let's have return of the National Economic Council with a similar entity at the county level. Secondly, ensure we live within our means and stop public sector from borrowing heavily from private sector. Thank you.
Deputy Governor, Machakos County, thank you so much for joining us, sir. Mary Mukami, she is ESPAC member as well as the Association of Women Accountants of Kenya. That is AWAC. Professor Gola, also here an accountant, an economist, and the governor's expert. He says that he has got a silver bullet to change this in 2027. I repeat, I only have one vote. I know where it will go. Peter, asante sana for coming. Peter is managing partner, Ronald's LLP. Let's take a break. GMK continues after this. Good morning.
Bado uko hapa. Toka! Toka!
Ukisikia kitu nipigie simu. Sawa sawa?
Yeah, you know, got you.
We'll find them.
When, Marvin? Surely when?
Lishan amefanya
Hawajakwambia bado?
kuambiwa nini?
Kama hawajakwambia, sifai kuzungumza kitu yote.
Nini kinaendelea huku? I've been trying to call you since yesterday. And neither you nor Marvin is answering my calls. Ako wapi yo Marvin? Paul. Lishan was kidnapped yesterday.
Aki mama, usipigie polisi, mom. Mom.
Fashion is so much more than what we wear. It's a reflection of our culture, our confidence, our diversity, and at times the season of life that we are in. But as trends evolve, so does fashion.
There's many shifts. I think social media, number one, is a big thing. Because anytime someone has an event and they're like, I need a dress for this and this, I need a design, I need to buy this, where do you go? Instagram.
Yes.
Or TikTok. Like back in our days, there was none of that.
Yeah. You look at what the Gen Zs are very concentrated or very strong on. Let's say one thing I would say in matters of image, not just clothes, I would say like dreadlocks.
Yes.
Is not really in our culture, but it is part of our culture. I wouldn't say it's Mombi and type of that kind of culture.
Yeah, you have to dress according to your body shape and what works. Because what I can wear or like I love these pants.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, that's the first thing I told Ashley. But I was like, okay, would I wear them? I'm like, okay, then I'd have her tweak a few things for me.
Yes.
Because I understand my body shape and I know what can work for me.
Wiki hii kwenye Mkulima tunaangazia upanzi wa parachichi na makadamia.
Lakini huwezi kusema ati utategemea hii peke yake. Kwa sababu sasa matunda ni kidogo. Lakini kama ukiwa na ekaleji kubwa, makadamia inaweza kusaidia. Kwa sababu pesa iko.
Ungana nasi Jumamosi saa 10:30 hapa KBC Channel 1 kwa mseto kamili wa kilimo.
And welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe. We are glad that you're still with us right here on KBC Channel 1. Now we talk matters construction, building Kenya right. And Kenya is urbanizing at a very fast pace with cities like Nairobi, Kisumu, Mombasa. Expanding at a fast rate, high-rise development, housing estates, industrial parks, all that, meaning that construction remains one of the important sectors within the country, given that it contributes around 6 to 7% to the GDP and also provides a lot of jobs for many people. But then again, also there have been controversies within the industry. Speaking of building collapses, enforcement of regulations, but also the central question here goes beyond whether we are building right as a country, whether we are building enough, but are we also building right? And where does that answer lie? The built environment professionals provide all that we need, and that conversation forms the basis of this segment. And we are looking at the role of built environment professionals in construction, and I'm having it with Engineer Nathaniel Matalanga, who is the President-elect World Council of Engineers. Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you, Mike.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to be back.
Karibu sana. Yes, and also Mairu Omwenga, who is a chairperson, Town and County Planners Association of Kenya. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
You know, let's get into this conversation, and I'll start with you, engineer. You know, when a building begins, be it a family home or a major infrastructure development, talk about the ideal sequence of involvement of relevant professionals, from planners, architects, and all other professionals involved.
You know, Mike, it's quite simple that when you want to do shelter for yourself and your family,
yes,
you like to do it correctly, because that's where you go and spend a lot of time. And many of us aspire that one day we shall have a roof over our heads. Either we own it, or even if you are able to buy one that is already developed by others. And the proper sequence is you probably want to buy land. You get the legal people help you get land, you do the search, you know that it is proper land, it doesn't belong to anyone, therefore you get into a deal and then buy. Then you find out that that land you want to buy is proper for residential accommodation. You don't want to buy land in a place where you cannot build a house, or land that is owned by other people, or land that is on the river, on the riparian, as you can see the reclamation of Nairobi River exercise going on. So some people are suffering because they do not do proper due diligence, and they're having that problem. So that's where it starts. Get the proper land, get the legal places, then you will now get the proper professionals. The work of the planner is actually done way even before you want to buy that land, because already he will have been involved in ensuring that that land is zoned properly, it is for what you want to use it for. But for whatever reason, in case you realize that it is not meant for a residential accommodation, there is a process that you go through with a planner. You apply for what is called change of user, from whatever the land is designated for to a residential house. That process should be straightforward.
Yes.
Yeah. If you cannot do it, you are told, sorry, you cannot get it. If you can do it, you should be able to do it. But the way we are structured in cities like Nairobi, if you want to get change of user, that can take you more than 1 year.
Wow.
That is quite discouraging. Then after you get the change of user, if you had to get one, you now employ an architect to do the development.
Let me get you, we'll come back to that point.
Yes.
But I want to engage Omwenga, because, you know, many Kenyans encounter these professionals only when maybe seeking approvals or permits. But from where you stand, what critical value does each professional bring that maybe the public does not often see?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I think it's important to appreciate the role and the part that professionals play in our lives. it is really taking chance. And for example, we were talking about the building sector, to be able to take chance or guesswork, or to simply assume that you know. It's important to appreciate that professionals have an important part to play in the development of our towns, indeed in the development of our buildings, okay? And that going forward to ignore them, okay, can be extremely costly, okay? And indeed one of the things that presents itself is when you have built, okay, you have spent 500 million, okay, you are on the 12th floor, you are on the 15th floor.
That's quite an amount.
Yes, and all that suddenly collapses. So the losses are heavy, okay? Leave alone the death of life, which really we can say it's really immeasurable when we lose even a single life. So avoiding to use professionals is extremely costly, and I think it's important that we have this kind of show to be able to highlight to members of the public that it's important that professionals have an important part to play. They add value to what you want to develop. They must never be taken for granted. Just like when you are unwell, you make sure that you see a doctor.
Yeah, you go to the right professional.
Yes, okay. And you don't just see any doctor. You just have got to make sure that that doctor is qualified, is registered, and so on. Okay, so due diligence, because I think one of the things that we also suffer in the profession is where you find that there are people who are not professionals, okay, and therefore take members of the public for whatever. Or you, the developer yourself, you think that the professionals are expensive, and therefore you proceed to get services from cheaper quacks, as it were.
You have raised very important aspects, and we shall come to those. But I want you, engineer, to continue on your point. You are talking about the sequence of involvement of relevant professionals when making a major development of building.
Yes, Mike. Thank you very much again. The land, as I was explaining before, will be like properly planned. So the planner will have already zoned the area. It will be meant for residential accommodation. If it's not, you probably you are able to get a change of user. Then after that, you will now want to employ, as Mairura Mwenga has said, an architect whom you tell what you want to do. If it's a family house, what you want to develop on that land. Then he'll come up with a drawing which he'll be able to explain to you. This is a qualified architect now. Then you'll probably want to know how much is this thing going to cost me. So you'll want someone to help you with the pricing, another professional called a quantity surveyor. And then the architect he'll want to do something, and he'll want to be told, can this thing stand up? Then you'll want a structural engineer to give you that advice in form of making another drawing to respond to what the architect has designed. Then there is another professional, you know, even here at KBC, you can see you have a lot of services. I can see a lot of cameras. The work of determining how these cameras work, you know very well, is not for the architect, not for the QS, and not for the structural engineer. You require other professionals who are called building services engineers. We have mechanical engineers, electrical engineers who give you that advice. If you get very sophisticated, you can also get ICT professionals to help you. So these people normally communicate in form of a drawing. So they make drawings, and the way you confirm that this is acceptable, you submit these drawings to the county government for approval, so that whatever you want to develop for your family is acceptable and is livable. The challenges that many developers face is that the process of building approvals has been shrouded with a lot of controversy. That it does not seem to be a very objective process. It's like subjective in such a way that it depends on whom you know and whom you talk to. Sometimes the county even makes it complicated. That if you are doing it for the first time, they assess your plans and they tell you go and pay these fees. And if you make a mistake, Michael, to pay by check, someone like Nairobi County, they will take like, instead of 3 days to verify whether the check has reflected on their account, they will take 3 months. I have a friend of mine who went through this, and they were saying they cannot process the plans because his payment has not been reflected on their bank account. Then the easy option is they give you an M-Pesa number to pay. But you know the M-Pesa has a limit. If you're doing a big house, your cost of planning approval when you submit architectural drawings can easily be more than 250,000, which is the limit on M-Pesa.
Yes.
And you cannot pay these bills in installments. You have to pay it in one. So if you call the county government office and tell them, I want to pay, they will advise you, go withdraw cash and deposit it cash on our account and send us the cash receipt. So on to you, the county government has only 2 bank accounts, one at Cooperative Bank and the other one at Equity Bank. So if you happen that your account is not in any of those 2 banks, you'll be forced to go to your bank and withdraw cash and probably get G4S to escort you to any of these 2 banks to submit. And when you do it, they are told, okay, scan the slip and give it to me. And these processes are very frustrating to developers. So I don't know why they make it complicated, because if you know someone at county government, then it becomes easier for you to go about it. So the processes, or many developers and many families, people doing their own residential houses, will want to go through proper process. It's just like, but it has been made so hard. Like, if you have ever been involved in a traffic offense, it's not easy to pay a fine. If you really want to pay a fine, you'll take a whole day, because you go to the police station, then you are taken to the court, and you spend so much time. And sometimes even when you want to pay that fine, the policeman will tell you, I don't have the cash receipt. One time I tried it, I went to the police station, and I gave the 5,000 shillings cash to the policeman. He looked at me and said, hey, mzee, wewe hujakuwa na shida. He threw back 2,000 shillings to me and said, wewe mjinga kwenda. So you see, because of these challenges, corruption in this country, some people now would like to take shortcuts. And Nairobi, for example, has really been affected because the developers, as we said, are not for small houses, residential houses. Most developers are now doing big projects to do these apartments. You are seeing big offices. So there is a lot of money in those developments. And the decision to grant you the approval to do that development is supposed to be with the county officials. Unfortunately, this process has been interfered with, because previously we used to have the town clerk who was in charge of the running of the city affairs. But because of devolution, this process has been interfered with. And there was a time in the 90s where the planners came up with the Planning Act, and they moved from the city engineer's office department, who used to be under the town clerk. They managed to move them away from the city engineer's office, set up their own office with a planner in charge of development control. So when you are an architect now and you submit your architectural drawings, it's not an architect who looks at them. Okay. It is a planner who looks at them. Because he says, okay, he has done the zoning, he knows what should be done, but he's not approving the zoning. He's approving an architectural drawing. So
the processes are becoming kind of prohibitive to respective developers and even normal Kenyans when it comes to building?
They are a bit prohibitive in the sense that they are not objective. It is not put in a straightforward way where everyone who wants to do a development can follow. You see, if you let me, I can take you through the process that how the county, how the cities used to be managed previously. And Nairobi was the biggest. So all we should have, if we had been doing things correctly, with the advancement of devolution, all these other county headquarters will have just copied what is happening in Nairobi. But unfortunately, devolution came after this Planners Act was in place, and already things were going wrong in Nairobi, where as I said, the development control had already been moved out of the city engineer's office, and it was now in the urban planning department, which is headed by a planner. Previously, Mike, in the 70s, the Nairobi City Council which was governing which was governed at City Hall, was structured into key departments which were overseen by the town clerk. Remember the term town clerk? Eh? So this included the town clerk's office, which managed overall municipal administration, meaning the correspondence and policy coordination. Then there was the city treasurer's department, which handled taxation, budgeting, and the city municipal finances. Then there was the city engineers department, which oversaw public works, roads, and structural development. Then there was the public health department, which maintained sanitation, disease control, and clinics, including the famous Pumwani Maternity Hospital. Then there was the city planning department, which was responsible for zoning, land use, and giving out building permits, and then urban spatial development. Then there was housing development department, which managed the planning and construction of public residential estates. You know, the likes of Buruburu, Jamhuri, Madaraka. All those. Then there was the education department, which administered primary education and school infrastructure within the city. Then there was city inspectorate. You remember this with the police, with the city uniform. Yeah, department. It enforced municipal bylaws, things to do with licensing, and then meaning that the city is run properly. Then there was the Environment and Social Services Department, which managed parks, waste management, and community welfare. Then there was the Legal Services Department, which provided legal counsel and drafted municipal. I'm reading here because this has been shared with me by one of the people who used to work with the city, with the Nairobi city.
All that has changed.
All that has changed now. With the devolution, things that are not properly structured. And what happens, as I explained to you, when you submit an architectural drawing to a planner who has now moved from the city engineer's office to his own department called urban planning, you are submitting an architectural drawing, not a planning drawing, because the zoning has already been done. The density and everything, he has already done it. No, he has no business asking you to submit an architectural drawing. That drawing should be submitted to the city engineers, and I'm not saying to an engineer. In the city engineers department, there used to be all these professionals. There should be an architect, even the planner should be taken back there. There should be the structural engineer, there should be the roads engineer, there should be the water engineer, all of them. So that when you submit drawings, architectural drawings should go before the architect. Structural drawings should go before the structural engineer. Mechanical electrical drawings should go to the relevant professionals so that they approve them. And these professionals, you were talking about regulation yesterday and accreditation. These professionals are actually regulated. They have regulatory bodies. So they take professional responsibility for their work.
All right.
What has happened, Mike, and really goes wrong is that the technical people in the urban planning department, they have formed up some amorphous body called Urban Planning Technical Committee. This committee involves technical people from the county government and representation from private sector who come and try to do participatory approvals.
I want to bring in Omwenga here, because when you look at construction, sometimes it's seen as contractor-driven a process. Yet there are professionals who insist that yes, it's a multidisciplinary profession. Actually, so what happens if some of the professionals are excluded from the project cycle?
This is now on construction site. Yes, I think what we need to be clear about, and I think he has alluded to it, the construction industry is a multidisciplinary industry. Okay, it has got various professionals and players, and each of those players have a part to play.
Not only the contractor.
Not only the contractor. Okay, at every stage, right from the planning and design. Okay, as our engineers indicated. Okay, right from planning and design, you have the town planner, you have got the architect, you have got the engineer, okay, you have got the quant surveyors, and you have got all sorts of engineers, as he has explained, okay. So even on site, it is the same team, more or less, that actually moves to site. But now on site, you have got the contractor, okay, the person who has that capacity to be able to mobilize the the material for construction, okay, and he has got that kind of equipment. But he does that also under the supervision of the same professionals. If, as the town planner, on a particular site, okay, and this is where we're talking about when we talk about development zoning, okay, we have incorporated in there to say that on this particular site, the property is a half acre, and on that site, you can only build 50%. You must observe building lines, for example, 6 meters or 3 meters, depending on what it is. So the town planner must be on site to make sure then that the construction, the contractor builds and make sure that there are those setbacks that are allowed, so that you are not building next to somebody's window, okay, in that regard. So the town planner who had prepared the plan, okay, must also be on site to make sure that these building lines are observed. The town planner must be on site to make sure that the construction only goes to 4th floor, because this area is zoned for 4 floors, okay, in that regard. So he has to be on site to make sure that those items are done. He has to be on site to make sure then that enough open space, green space is left for the children to play, for the green space, and for people to be able to enjoy the greenery. Okay, so he has to be on site. He had planned and designed. He has to come to site to make sure that what is being constructed by the contractor observes those elements. Now, the architect has to be on site. That is why the drawings he was talking about, that the architect had prepared, the architect has got to follow them to site, okay? Because those are the ones now the contractor is translating into the actual building. So the architect has come to site to make sure, yes, the way he had designed his rooms and all the spaces, the contractor is building them to what was designed. The engineer has got to be in site, as he has indicated, to make sure that, for example, the steel which was required, the right concrete that he had designed, is being done by the whatever. So the contractor on site also is being supervised at all stages by the various professionals to make sure that what was planned, what was the design, is actually now being implemented.
So in other words, a lack of one professional within that development site will lead to problems in terms of how that construction comes out.
Absolutely.
Let's look at the professional gap engineer, because data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics shows that around 65% of Kenyans construct homes without really engaging professionals. What does that even say about public attitude towards professional services when it comes to construction?
Michael, you know, when you say 65% of Kenyans, of course, when I was young and my father was building a hut for my grandmother, he didn't need to get any approvals. So if you get that statistics, then you can say 65%. But if you come to now proper constructions that require oversight, and they can get two-storied buildings that can collapse, even the building law, we used to call him the building code, is very clear that up to this level you can do it with this type of professionals. But when you start getting higher, they need you now to engage these professionals. So what we are talking about is not what you can build easily. You want to build a hut, or you want to build a simple bungalow or something. You might be able to get away, but you still need an architect, you still need an engineer. Because, you know, you've heard of roofs of primary schools collapsing on children. As simple as it is, if there is no engineer or someone who has the proper training, the things will happen. And then the sad thing is that we have an abundance of all these professionals.
And
there are people we have in Kenya. The statistics I have is that 3,000 students are graduating from engineering schools every year. The law is that we are supposed to take them through mentorship for 3 years. Then they become professional engineers, that they can now also mentor others and oversight this work. We haven't reached there, but these people now are jobless because of the way we are doing things. I was trying to explain a process that worked earlier, a process that we are not able to appreciate now because we want the quick fix. You heard the other time Dr. Mkisa Kitui saying that the country has politicized all the processes, and therefore the professionals have lost it. Very soon, when you are sick, you will go to a hospital that is not manned by a doctor. So you'll be getting treated, and you've seen instances where there are people treating people who are not doctors. You've seen scenes where lawyers set up offices, and you can see the LSK going around to say these are not our members. So now, in construction, it is even worse, because there is a multidisciplinary profession here, industry. So even the contractor you talk about is regulated. He's supposed to adhere to the rules of National Construction Authority. For you to register a construction firm in Kenya, you are supposed to show a certain competence that you, in your management, you have some competence in terms of an engineer to this level. And then NCA has even graduated those classes. They have NCA 1 until NCS 8 or 7.
Right.
So that for you to be NCA 8, they give you this, it's a lower requirement, but for you to be NCA 1, they require a higher requirement. But other than just registration, NCA should also be following up that when you are doing these high-rise buildings, you as the contractor who has this registration to do NCA 1, you have on that site NCA 1 qualified staff. You have given this site sufficient backup and support staff, because there are ways of doing it. You only don't need an architect and engineer. No, that architect requires to be supported by technicians. In terms of engineering, engineers in Kenya are now regulated by Engineers Board of Kenya. There is the Engineers Act. Some sad thing happened in 2016 where technicians were left out when Engineers Act was done in 2010. So they went to Parliament and copied and pasted, with the support of one of the vice chancellors who was running one of the technical universities, copied and pasted Engineers Act and changed the name to Technologies and Technicians Act. Now, that is causing a lot of confusion. They are at the moment now trying to do regulations. So we are hoping that in the way they do those regulations, they now don't copy and paste the Engineers Act regulations into their regulations. We've tried to reach out to these people. The head of public service has actually set up a task force on how to actualize the operations of these technicians, so that all of you understand their level of competence and what they can do. We've tried even to reach out to that task force, but the challenge is that when I personally tried to reach out to the task force, the head of the task force asked me, can you make a presentation, send it to me, I'll review it, and then I will decide whether to invite you or not. I mean, this is voluntary, Mike. So are you expecting me to stay in my office for 2 hours making a presentation when this guy will have told me, can you come, we're having a meeting on this day, you talk to us, you tell us these things, we shall get a specialist name to make that presentation for you. So that is how we are getting, like, you want something, you have to run after it as a professional.
Okay.
Maybe
as you respond to that, also, when you look at that data of Kenyans not really engaging professionals, how is the industry convincing ordinary Kenyans that this is not an avoidable expense? They should rather see it as an investment, a long-term investment.
Indeed, as I indicated, first, cheap can be expensive. Okay, and as I illustrated, you've ignored all the professional advice that we'll have gotten by engaging the professionals. You have spent over 500 million, and suddenly, because of that, missing out on the professionals, your investment collapses in a split second. So it's important that the public realizes the importance of professionals. It is worth it. It's a worth investment. It is them who make sure then that your investment is sustainable and it comes to be realized. So omitting them is a serious offense. So what is our part? How can we reach out to members of the public to be able to make sure that they get this message? I think, number one, what we are doing here, and we want to thank KBC for availing this opportunity to be able to reach out there. But it's also sad that indeed in many institutions that are supposed to know better, such errors and omissions continue to occur. Okay? So I think it's the continuous public engagement, through forums like this one, but also we do organize, all our professionals do organize, either as engineers, architects, town planners. We organize various events and seminars where people from various sectors are invited. So that also provides a forum through which this information can reach out. Of course, also through the various educational institutions, okay? As professionals, we do make an effort to be able to reach out to our schools, right from secondary schools, okay? So that the students get to appreciate what's really the importance of this profession, which in the long run then, we will then be equipping the students to be able then, as they move upwards, they are able to make their career choices effectively, okay? But a point which I think I wanted to add at this stage, so lest we forget, was that in all these stages, right from the approval stage of the design drawings and the development plans, and on the construction site, I think it's important to appreciate that the state, and therefore the government, also plays a very important role. You have seen in the stage of planning and design, the government, in this case the county government, and indeed to some extent the national government, approves what is going to be developed. Okay? Now, at the stage of construction also, the same government also, just like the private consultants who have been engaged by the developer, the government also, in this case the county government, also has got oversight over what is happening on site. So at every stage, okay, yes, the developer with his team of consultants is on site, but also the government has got, or is supposed to have, a parallel team to also to oversight what is being done. And what it is then, as government, you had approved that in this area you are going to have 4 floors or 20 floors, okay? You must also then also follow up and make sure that the developer is also doing exactly that, over and above the consultants of the team. So the government at every stage also is involved. And I think this is a situation where then that responsibility may have been downplayed. It is actually a requirement that on construction sites, right from when you are setting up the works, okay, the government team has to come and also verify that what is being done, okay, excavation start, is being done according to what they approved. You do the excavation before you raise the steel and all this kind of thing. They must also come and also verify that what is being done is correct. That is in the overall perspective of saying the state government has a responsibility to make sure that the citizens are safe. Okay? The investments are safe. And I think this is the area where we see a lapse.
Okay. You know, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to these matters that we are addressing. But I want to give you each a minute to give your closing remarks. And I'll start with you, Engineer. What is the future of the construction industry, especially now that we are living in an age where technology is advancing?
Mike, the future is quite bright, but we need to rethink and reset the way we are doing about it. You can see a project like affordable housing. It's very good. It was supposed to provide good accommodation. But the way it's being implemented, I don't see it happening. We had a big challenge as professionals with that project, and we raised it up. We, as engineers, had actually just developed what is called the engineer scale of fees, which says if you are an engineer and you are doing a certain project, you are meant to provide these services, and you should be paid this amount, clearly. But then the head of state himself set that document, which is a government document, aside, and called people and said, I am paying you this much to do supervision. Now he got type houses done, different plots, you're given to supervise. Of course, you have to redesign. So the future of our country and Kenya in Africa is actually bright. But we need to reset and think how we are going to achieve and finally go to Singapore.
Yes.
Thank you.
Omenga.
Yes.
Your final remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now, number one, I think in the building and construction industry, the very basics needs to be upheld. Professionals must be allowed to do their work, and also within that message also, every professional must be clear and stick to do what they are trained to do and professionally qualified. Because we have a situation where you actually find somebody who is not an architect or is not an engineer signing and saying that he has approved this development. So I think it's important that we get the very basics, that professionals are required, and each profession must make sure that they're doing what they are qualified to do. Otherwise, outside that, it is really a serious offense.
Thank you so much for making time.
Right.
And actually, whatever you said, going back to the basics, maybe that will be the starting point of making things change within the construction industry. Mairo Omwenga is the chairperson of Town and County Planners Association of Kenya, and also Engineer Nathaniel Matalanga is the president-elect World Council of Engineers. This is where this conversation ends. My name is Mike Migwi. Thank you for tuning in. Vivian Ndegwa is up next to steer you with the rest of the program. Stay with us.
Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you.
We do not have a special society, so it has to start with us.
We still have a large number of people who doesn't know the rights of persons with disability. We still have a large number of people who are not exposed. Parents and guardians, they are still hiding persons with disability.
Nimekuwa na challenge moja tu ya kumpeleka shule. Juu shule yenye ameitwa ni huko Kilimani. Ukimpeleka shule za huku unakuambia wataki mtoto haoni. Juu ati tukimweka huko kwa class ni kumpotezea wakati.
We want to get rid of those areas and the normal way people look at people with disabilities, the way they charge them.
Kwa sasa ni wakati wa kutayarisha mili yetu vizuri, tuone je, tunaweza hatuwezi.
Kimuona kicheko chake kama jua la asubuhi, huzuni yote yakimbia, roho inapata sai.
Naunga hii mada kwa kusema mitandao inawasaidia vijana mbalimbali kuzungumza na wazazi au ndugu zao wanaoishi mbali, kutumia video au picha.
Habari za uongo imewafanya vijana kupeleka habari za uongo na upotoshaji.
Siri ya mtungi, je, tumuulize kata ama tumuulize aliyebeba? Nipe kitangulizi chochote unachokijua katika hadithi fupi.
Hapo zamani za kale.
Hapo zamani za kale. Cha pili,
pauko pakao.
Did I move you?
Sorry? Where?
Nilimumufu yani, nilimumufu kwa hiyo company ama
kwani yeye ni wa kumuvua, wewe ni wa kumuvua kwa
si amesema vitu zake zilimuviwa.
Ongea lugha ya taifa.
Mheshimiwa, hii kesi najua naweza kukuachia.
Si uniachie? Niachie mimi na mimi nifanye.
Na kuuliza namna hivi.
Ndio.
Power bank na electronics. Zote ni electronics ama namna gani?
Power bank inaingiliaje kwa kesi yangu?
Ndio hiyo nakuuliza sasa. Na ulisikia huyo mama akisema mimi ndio nimeiba hizo vitu ama ni mtu mwingine aliiba?
Sasa si wewe ndio tulibata nayo.
Tena hauna aibu. Unatumia bado ile ofisi yokaa ambayo nilikupatia ya kampuni.
Semeji, unajua tu nikifungwa mimi semeji yangu na yako imeisha.
Hakuna shida, unajua vile dada yako alisema kama ni muisi funga.
Thank you for staying with us, and now we get into our final segment right here on Good Morning Kenya, that is Women at the Forefront. And I am more than pleased to be having with me the Director General and CEO, Kenya National Qualifications Authority, that is Dr. Alice Kande. And Dr. Alice Kande is here so that we can have a conversation on verification and recognition of academic qualifications. What questions may you be having on that? Be sure that she will be answering each and every one of those questions. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Vivian.
It is a pleasure to have you here this morning.
A pleasure too.
Maybe we can just begin by first just you giving us the role of the Kenya National Qualifications Authority. Just generally, what is the mandate?
Right.
Thank you so much, Vivian, and good morning, everyone. My name is Alice Kande, CEO, Kenya National Qualifications Authority, like you rightly said, and a pleasure to be here to talk about Kenya National Qualifications Authority, and importantly, what we call the National Qualifications Framework. The Kenya National Qualifications Authority is an agency under the Ministry of Education, State Department for TVET. However, our role cuts across. It is not just a role of the State Department for TVET, because the National Qualifications Framework speaks to the entire space of education and training, right from basic to TVET to universities, to industry training, to professional training, anywhere where there's a form of education and training. Then the National Qualifications Authority finds a space, because our role is to ensure that there's harmony, their standards in the way we articulate our qualifications, in the way we regard credibility of qualifications. We are established under the Act of 2014. We call it Kenya National Qualifications Framework Act of 2014, operationalized by regulations of 2025. You would wonder that space. Initially, we had regulations of 2018. But over time, in the course of implementation, we realized that there were gaps that needed to be addressed, and to make sure that we are able to really address the functions as envisaged in the Act. And what is really brought out by those legislative documents is to ensure that as a country, we have what we call a national qualifications framework. And this is a policy instrument, so to speak, that provides for classification of all levels of education and training. And not about all levels. We're talking about, like I said, from basic to the highest level, and all forms of education and training. We're talking about the classroom training, the traditional way of training, getting to class and being taught. We're also talking about any training that you might get informally or non-formally, so that there is no skill or competence that is so acquired that is not certified. And if it is certified, then it finds a way of being recognized within the framework.
And I want us to dwell on that a bit before you continue.
Right.
You know, the skill-based certification. How do you get to recognize, you know, skill-based? How do you recognize skill-based certification? How do you go about that? You know, I have a skill, yes, but I don't have any certificates for it, but I'm really skilled in one way or the other. How do you go about the certification for that?
Very good question, Vivian. Yes, skill-based. And we pride ourselves as a country as one that is so keen on informal acquisition of skills and competences. And for the longest time, that is before we got to what we call the recognition of prior learning policy, we didn't have a mechanism in place to recognize any skill or competence that is acquired outside of the classroom. And of course, never mind that we appreciate that even right now, looking at the transformation that we have within the education and training space, of course, we're looking at skills and competencies. However, in addition to that formal recognition, we're saying you go to class, you're trained, and you get acquainted to an industry, and you get a skill maybe through attachment or internship. Now, there's this bit of where you have a skill. We're glad that as a country, since March of 2024, we have what we call recognition of prior learning policy. And what does it speak to? That we recognize anyone who has a skill or a competence, not necessarily that they have gone to class. If you acquired it through apprenticeship, anywhere, then what you need to do is to ensure that you present yourself to a credible institution. We already have within the framework, we've cascaded it to the institutions that have a legal mandate, also to ensure that they implement it, and so they have institutionalized it. And one would be able to present themselves, and they will be guided on how they would demonstrate that they have a skill. So if you have a skill, Vivian, it means that it will not get lost. You will be guided. And if it does not measure up to the requirements of a level of certification, because I was going to say that the framework actually is a 10-level framework, very well articulated in terms of if you're being assessed at what we'd call level 5, craft certificate. Then very clear description. We call them KNQF level descriptors, clear learning outcomes. You have to demonstrate that you actually have the competence for that. And so you wouldn't get lost and you wouldn't hit a dead end that now you have been assessed, you've been certified. That certificate you get is a credible certificate as long as it has been issued by a credible institution. However, if an institution finds that you did not meet the requirement to be certified, there's also provision, what you call skill gap. You know, you fill in what you have missed, so you will not be dismissed. So getting back and sending you back to the industry, and you will be able to fill in that which you are missing. And so it is actually facilitative. Yes, Vivian.
All right. And I'd still like to follow up on that. You know, you mentioned you can go to an institution that is accredited and you get to find where you are. So how am I supposed to know what institutions or what programs are accredited? Even for someone who is looking to enroll maybe, how am I able to know if an institution or a particular program is accredited? Is there a way to look that up?
Yes, Vivian, there is a way in which you can be able to know which institutions are accredited and which ones are not. And allow me to take you back. For the longest time, before establishment of the Kenya National Qualifications Authority, I did say that we are established through enactment of an Act of 2014. And of course we know, for years on end, even pre and post independence, we've had education and training for the longest time. And so we've had institutions that are duly accredited or duly legally mandated, but we've also had institutions that have come up and they have not had this legal mandate to probably train, assess and award. And one of the reasons again for the establishment of the Kenya National Qualifications Authority is to ensure that there's a standardized way in which we classify the institutions that have that legal mandate to train, assess and award a certificate. One of the critical roles that we have is to establish what we call a national qualifications database. Now that database contains all the accredited institutions, all the accredited programs that are offered in those accredited institutions. And then it also contains graduates' records. So this is a graduate who's gone through the accredited program, through the accredited institution. And broadly again, allow me to say that we work collaboratively with what we call subsector regulators, because the national qualifications framework, as I explained earlier, it is all encompassing. And so we work from the institutions that are under basic, we work with the TVET institutions, and so for the TVET institution, we work with TVET authority. So you would know that any institution that offers a TVET oriented course. So that is from what you call KNQF level 3 to level 6, which is a diploma. It must first of all be accredited by TVET authority. If it is a university that offers from level 7, that is a bachelor's degree, through to level 9 master's to doctorate, it must first of all be accredited by Commission for University Education. Now, what these accreditation bodies do, and to ensure that they align with the requirements of the National Qualifications Framework, is that they anchor the accreditation framework on what is provided within the National Qualifications Framework. And that is where coherence and harmony and standardization comes in, so that you would find the parameters that TVET authority is using to ensure that they accredit a program. They are parameters that would be acceptable by a university, because Commission for University Education has also used those parameters. They are comparable, they are acceptable, they are speaking to each other. So the graduate coming from this sub-framework of TVET will also seamlessly be able to move to the sub-framework of university. And allow me to also say that also within the sub-framework of industry training, where we have, for instance, National Industrial Training Authority that deals mainly with skills. And of course, we've had NITA for the longest time, even before we had recognition of prior learning. And they were looking at actually just assessing the competencies that one has. So we also have the accreditation framework, of course, also applying within that context, and also professional pathway, because you would find that professional pathway are not so distinct in as much as you would find that someone would move from say level 2, which in our old system 844 would say KCSE. Right now we have what one would exit at year 12. So if they get that certificate, then they will be able to probably decide to pursue a professional course. Now that professional course must find its way of integrating with the rest of the sub-frameworks. So how would you then know an institution that is accredited? It must first of all be accredited by the subsector regulator. Once it is accredited by subsector regulator, then we get it registered in the National Qualifications Database. And also the programs as well. We do not register programs that have not gone through a subsector regulator. And you see, we're speaking the same voice because subsector regulators, TVET Authority, NATA, Commission for Industry Education, they are also making reference to the National Qualifications Framework, which is the apex at that point. And so that way we are also able to flag out any program or any institution that may purport to be issuing any level of certification, yet they do not have a legal mandate to do so. And we're appreciative of that kind of very clear architecture that is provided, and glad to see that we're seamlessly and harmoniously working with all those stakeholders, right from subsector regulators to the institutions that are within their purview. If it is the universities, if it is the institutions with the TVET space, if it is the professional examination bodies, we are now connected through the Kenya National Qualifications Framework.
I hear you on that. That is well explained. Now, what would you say are some common irregularities that probably you've gotten to encounter, you know, during these processes? What are the common irregularities?
Yeah, thank you, Vivian. Like we would find in any other sector, education space also is also prone to infiltration by players who may want to beat the system that is already established. Most of the reason would be because they don't want to follow the processes that are already laid. You know, for instance, getting back to the earlier question on speaking to how would you know an accredited institution. For the longest time, again, before establishment of the framework, we had so much fragmentation. And it is across board for all the sub-frameworks, even at lower levels. You'd actually find a school that is purporting to train our youngest of pupils, and they have not been accredited. And getting also to the TVET space as well, you would find that there are institutions that would be mushrooming left, right, center, and they would actually be enticing people to register for the courses. And of course, because you're a country where people are so keen to really learn and get certified and be able to use those certificates, they would definitely get people. So one of the areas that then we find that people really try to beat the system is a bit of going above what you are mandated to do. Because the beauty is that the Constitution allows anyone to practice. You know, if you would want to establish an institution, you have the leeway even as Vivian to do so, but you must follow what the law has provided. There are clear criteria that is provided, and you must follow it to establish an institution that would be regarded as one that can issue a credible certificate. But we're glad because now with the legislations in place, and that is really something that has helped this country to be at the forefront. In fact, as we speak, as we talk about implementation of the National Qualifications Framework, which is not a national concept, it is actually a global concept. Within the region, if I would start closer to where we are, within the East African community, we're already working on an East Africa Community Qualification Framework. Within the broader region, if you look at 8 member states of IGAD, we're already working on an IGAD Qualifications Framework, actually already in place. But what you're trying to do is to ensure that the specific countries also have their own NQFs. Within the continent at large, we have what we call the Africa Continental Qualifications Framework. Again, to ensure that we have an umbrella body that supports this acceptability, comparability, and compatibility of our qualifications. Because this issue is actually rampant globally. It is not even a continental issue of where people really want to use fake certificates. I'm sure we've had that everywhere.
Allow me to cut you short. We take a break and then we'll get back to that conversation. Don't go too far. We'll be back in a bit.
Okay.
The bounty hunters were all killed?
Yes.
These bounty hunters were all at the level of Tapana. I really thought at least one of them would be able to kill Cao Yanbing first.
It really is you. Wow, you're ugly.
I'm wanted now? So you're here to capture me?
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, I have with me Dr. Alice Kande, who's the Director General and CEO, Kenya National Qualifications Authority, and we're talking matters verification, recognition, and all of that matters our academic qualifications. Now, before we took that break, you were just touching on, we used to have the challenge of fake certificates, academic certificates, and that is changing now with this, with a way to be able to verify and recognize, whether the certificate is whether it's verified rather. So, just how best are we at that, and have we been able to completely do away with the fake certificates? Or that's a stretch.
Very good question, Vivian. We're probably not yet done because people are very creative, really creative, and especially now with technology in place. The way people used to creatively come up with the fake certificates 10, 30 years ago is now different. AI has even made it easier and probably almost impossible to tell which is real and which is authentic and which is not. However, the beauty, again, is that as a country, our solution to curbing this has actually been supported by establishment of what you're talking about today, of the National Qualifications Framework. Remember I said, it is a single integrated framework of all levels of education and training. And a critical mandate that we have, and what actually informed also establishment of this, is that centrally we are able to have all credible qualifications. At a glance, you would be able to click and tell that certificate that you hold, is it credible? Was it issued by an accredited institution? Was that program even accredited? And even you as a holder yourself, can we authentically say that you own that certificate? And that solution lies within the National Qualifications Database. We're glad that with that solution now, and I did say that we work collaboratively with the subsector regulators, we are actually able to flag these out. And gradually, as a country, we shall actually phase it out. I was actually going to say earlier that number of our peer countries within the continent are coming actually to benchmark with us, because it is a great transformative solution. Because the issue of fake and misrepresented certificates, as they are called in other spaces, is actually a global issue. And we must face it, because unfortunately, you would find that someone would move with a fake certificate from Kenya, and they would want to use that fake certificate in South Africa. They would want to use that certificate in the UK. But the beauty is that most of these countries now, we are speaking a common language. Like I said, the issue of qualifications, actually, we look at it in two lenses. From the global lens, where we are guided by already existing conventions and treaties that require that we have a way of trusting qualifications between countries, from one jurisdiction to the other. And the common feature here is a national qualifications framework. So I would tell you that today, if you go to Zambia, go to Seychelles, go to any country, actually within the continent, out of the 55 countries, over 45 have an established national qualifications framework, of course, at various stages of implementation. And what you're doing is to rally behind our people to support that what you carry as a certificate. It actually denotes skill and competence that you have. And importantly, it is a credible certificate. So to answer your question, I can say that as a country, we are quite some miles ahead. First of all, with the establishment of the framework, bringing together all the subsector regulators together, bringing together all the sub-frameworks together as well, and having this centralized database of credible qualifications. And we are glad again because we are seeing a lot of interest from the employers, because we've realized that the ones who are really suffering by reinvesting and really retraining people so that they get credible certificates, and just to ensure that they also don't get people with fake certificates. So a number of them are coming to us, and we are able to help them verify authenticity of those qualifications. So we are actually steps ahead as a country, and we do really look forward to a point where we shall be able to have this mess really dealt with.
Okay, so what I'm getting is, you know, with the use of technology, yes, a lot has advanced, but you're also leveraging on technology to ensure that you're also verifying these qualifications.
Yes.
All right. Now, with emergence of technology, there's also the emergence of things such as AI, you know, and digital skills as well. And I'm sure most of us, or most of the people who are watching me right now will agree with me that we're taking up courses, you know, as we are working towards just improving ourselves day in, day out. We are taking up short courses on AI here and there. How am I able to know, or is there a way to verify on whether the course that I'm taking is actually verified? Is it recognizable? Like, is that something you're also looking into? Because now there are very many programs or courses that we take, short courses that we take online. How to verify whether your certification is verified?
Yeah, very well, Vivian, and a very timely question on the issue of short and technology-driven courses. And I agree with you. There's so much that now technology has done in redefining even the needs of the labor market. You know, from where we sit, we say that we look at the institution that provide graduates as the suppliers, and then we look at the employer side as a demand side. And so what is important is to ensure that there's a connection between a conversation between the supplier and the demand side. And so looking at now what technology has done and what we're doing, and remember I said that the National Qualifications Framework is actually a flexible tool that allows for recognition of any form of training that one may have, whether it is formally acquired, informally, or non-formally. Any context, whether it is a 2-year, 4-year, or 3 months. That's the beauty of it. And allow me to go back and say that the structural foundation of a national qualifications framework is that we are actually able to map any kind of certification. That said, we are working on what we call a micro-credentials framework. But it's a micro. So in other words, we are saying, as we focus in having people who are skilled and having a certificate that demonstrates that actually they are skilled, and probably even showing that they are leveraging also technology to move with the digital credentials and certification of any form, then the micro-credentials framework will provide for us a way and a mechanism of recognizing any form of certification, however minute it is, for as long as the employer or the labor market makes meaning to it, finds meaning to it. That means that it could actually be a 2-hour training, it could be a 10 hours training, it could be a 2 months training. As long as the way it's curated, it makes meaning. And you can actually move with that certification and you find a space where you're able to deliver in the labor market. Then that certified skill or competence must find a place within the National Qualifications Framework. So what we are doing currently is to develop the micro-credentials framework. And again, we're so grateful to the government through the Ministry of Education. We were able to get a team, a technical working committee, all encompassing, like I said, representation from all the sub-frameworks of the qualifications ecosystem, from basic education to universities, to the professional space, to the employers themselves, because that is very, very critical, and even partners, development partners as well. We are currently working with the International Labour Organization and also Commonwealth of Learning. They're the ones who are really supporting us in this. And in about 2 months or so, we are looking at finalizing that micro-credentials framework. And that would be a game changer. Because right now you can also tell what our youth are doing currently. I mean, they're not so interested in a 4-year program. I can tell you that for sure. They want to, in as much as one would be doing a 4-year program, you'd find that on the side, someone who is creative will take advantage of the short courses that are probably offered online, some of them even free. But then, from where we sit, we are providing a system that will ensure and assure the employer that you can consider this as a credible certificate. And so we shall be able to find a way of mapping and guiding on what institutions, which spaces do we consider as credible issuers of a certificate, whether it is micro or otherwise. So that is the progress that we have made, and we are so glad that we shall be able to really provide a solution that is so current right now to the labor market.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And I want to look at the employer side. So there's a job interview that is happening. People have applied, right? So when they receive these certifications or certificates from different job applicants, how are they able to, or where do they begin when it comes to verifying whether this certificate is actually credible or not? Is there a way to do that, or rather, how do they get to do that?
Absolutely, very, very important, because like we say, people are so creative, and of course you also find ourselves in a situation where we have so many unemployed youth, especially many unemployed people, and so people would like to use any means to ensure that they get a job, and unfortunately you'd find someone trying to push their way with a fake certificate. And so we are glad that the government again has been very keen in alerting the employers that they need to ensure that they check authentication of the certificates of any person who has applied for a job. And we're glad that that is happening. How does it happen? In our case, there's a service that we call alignment and validation. And what we do is that we are able to verify and guide and advise the employer that this certificate actually, for the level that it has been issued, certified and issued, it actually fits that level. And also that it has been issued by a credible institution, and that the program was also accredited. And you, as the person who holds a certificate, you actually went through that course. And remember, we're also talking about the various forms of certification. That includes also those who have been assessed through recognition of prior learning. And being a new concept, we are also very keen to ensure that people do not ride on the newness of a system that is being just implemented to also get fake certificates in that space. So any form of certification that has been issued, it goes through the system. We have an online portal that is very, very easy to use, and one would actually just upload the certificates that you have, and you will be able to take it through the process, and we will issue a confirmation that yes, this is well aligned at this particular level, and so, you know, this person can be considered, or for whatever reason one would want to use it. Some people would want to use it for progressing to higher levels. But also allow me to speak briefly that we also look at mapping qualifications that have been acquired from beyond our boundaries, or from foreign awarding bodies. Some of them are actually here, but they give a different system of education. But then we also have to guide and map them in the national qualifications framework. So for instance, a simple one, say, for instance, a GCSE that goes until either year 11 or year 13. We are able to map them in the framework and guide. If one exits at year 13, what does that mean? What is an institution supposed to decode from this so that they know where do they admit the student with this certificate? So basically we are able to provide that. We are able to align any form of certification as it is and validate it and map it in the framework and provide guidance on where exactly does it fit within the framework, and also confirmation on whether it is credible or not credible.
Yeah,
Thank
you've
you.
actually answered my next question. It was on the same, you know, on for someone who studied abroad, when they come back to the country, will it be difficult for them to know where am I supposed to be placed? But you've answered that very nicely. I want us to go back to, or to get back to something you had also mentioned as we finalize on our conversation, where you had mentioned this is not just a Kenyan thing. You are working towards, you know, it's global, and you're working towards just coming together with bodies from across the continent and the globe at large. So if you can just finalize by speaking on that, will this be easier for even a Kenyan to be able to join the job market anywhere else across the board?
Absolutely, and very well said, Vivian, because a key role of the National Qualifications Framework is to ensure that any certificate that is deemed credible, and of course in our case maybe registered in the National Qualifications Database, is actually acceptable in any space where it finds itself. And that is why I was saying that establishment and implementation of National Qualifications Framework is not a national concept. It is actually a global concept. And why we have National Qualifications Framework is to facilitate mobility of skills and labor, and most importantly, that the holder of that certificate finds meaningful engagement using that certificate that they have. And so mobility is actually a global concept, and we find our borders actually have become very, very fluid currently. And so what we have are multi-layered, what we call ecosystem, and guided. We look at it in two ways. At a global level, and also maybe continental and regional, we have what we call conventions. Like we have legal instrument at that global level. We have what we would call within the region like a DIS convention within the African space. We also have the Global Convention on Higher Education, and all this is supported now on this other lower lens of what to look at the technical architecture, where we have the National Qualifications Framework. So within the national space now, we get to get these National Qualifications Framework and authorities that are implementing, subscribing and supporting those regional, continental, and global conventions. And the purpose of those conventions is basically to enhance trust in qualifications. But then not just trust that I just get a qualification from Ghana, from Nigeria, from South Africa, I just accept it. That is why we have this concept of National Qualifications Framework, because the foundation, the underpinning of that is actually common. If you look at how we've established the National Qualifications Framework in Kenya, and how, for instance, Zambia, Seychelles, South Africa have established theirs, you'd actually see that we kind of peers. We are sisters, because the essence is the same. And so as a country, we are so glad because we have done a number of milestones in facilitating this mobility. First of all, through having the national qualifications framework within the national space well established and well anchored, speaking to the entire space. And then its acceptability at regional level, at continental level. We are very active, for instance, within the continental space with what we call Africa Continental Qualifications Framework. And gladly, again, because of the solidness and firmness and well articulation of our qualifications ecosystem, we are leading jointly together with South Africa Qualifications Authority and Zambia Qualifications Authority and steering the effective implementation of what we call ACQF, the Africa Continental Qualifications Framework. And we're getting all these of our countries. We want to be there, all of us, the 55 of us, as a common solid voice, saying that we are able to understand and accept qualification. So that if you move with your level 6 diploma to South Africa, you move with it to Europe, to UK, it will be accepted for that level. Because now, being anchored in the Africa Continental Framework, it also speaks to the global qualifications framework. And so this is a very, very important tool. You'd also know that it also speaks to the protocol on free movement of persons through implementation of Africa Continental Free Trade Area, and which Kenya we are very, very keen to support. You would know there's a lot that is happening in supporting people to move. And so we find that a certificate is actually a very critical anchor that would help you to fit in anywhere. Right. And so very, very important for it to be accepted anywhere it finds itself.
Very well put. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Kande. It was a pleasure having you here. And thank you for just shedding light on this very needed and important conversation. This is where we put a cap to today's Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for your time, and do enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is Vivian Ndegwa. Goodbye.
The bounty hunters were all killed?
Yes.
These bounty hunters were all at the level of Tapana. I really thought at least one of them would be able to kill Cao Yanbing first.
It really is you. Wow, you're ugly.
I'm wanted now? So you're here to capture me?